Warning, viewer and listener discretion is advised with this podcast. We're talking to a veteran of the British Army, talking about the events that took place whilst he was active in the Afghanistan war and the events that took place after that with post-traumatic stress disorder and various mental health struggles following his active tours. I hope you enjoy the podcast, but viewer discretion is advised.
Just a massive explosion, and like at that point, all I see is just dust everywhere, and then I just like I'm trying to like work out what's going on, and I can hear like the interpreter's like screaming. He's like and then like as all the dust settles, there's just a massive hole in the floor. There's the boss's legs just laying there, and there's just like bits, like there was electric wires up there, and there was just bits of skin and stuff hanging off that. I'm like, right, I need to do something. And then next minute I'm crying, like, I'm just like, oh, fucking hell, I can't do this. But all this is happening in such a fast period of time. At the front, the Afghans were in front of the boss. Explosion had gone off behind them. They all turned around and they all start shooting in my direction. But I always say to people, like in any traumatic situation that I've ever had, your brain tries to make out, I think to save itself, this isn't real. Yeah. So everything, it was like, everything's been placed there. Like, this isn't real. I remember, like, when it had happened, I remember just thinking, they're playing a trick. He's going to come out, like it's a joke. Or, I go through, like, every single emotion that a body could have. I went through every single emotion.
I'm Beer Meets Food.
And I'm Josh Gudgeon.
And we're your hosts here on the Breaking Bread podcast, where each episode we have a good old-fashioned chinwag about some interesting topics, as well as occasionally being joined by a special guest or two. And on that topic, today we've got Mr. Honor Kaglar from, did I say that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a little worried. From of the channel DiesInEveryFilm Customs, YouTube channel with 600,000 subs, no less. It's a lot. I actually, before we get into introductions, I want to ask you something real quick. So, like, 600,000 subs, that's a strong amount. So you must be at some stage getting recognised in public. So when people come up to you, do they say, "Hi, Mr. DiesInEveryFilm," or do they actually know your name?
No one recognises me in public.
Because I was thinking, I've got like a tier level. So like, if people come up to me and they say, "Oh, your beard versus food," I'm like, "Oh man, close, close." And then if they say beard meets food, I'm like, "Okay, maybe they watch a few episodes." And if they say Adam, I'm like, top tier subscriber. They probably watch everything because they actually know my real name. So I was just curious if people know your real name.
I think the only time I've ever been sort of recognised was I was in B&Q. I had a hoodie on, my DiesInEveryFilm hoodie, because I was obviously halfway through work and I needed to pick something up. And a woman looked at it and went, "Oh, I follow that guy on Instagram." She didn't realise it was obviously me. So that's it. That's about as close as I got.
That's pretty bad. I follow this guy, but doesn't know it's you.
I think it's funny with Honor though. He's got a famous thumb, not for reasons you'd think, believe it or not. But that's one of his main things. Obviously, it's your logo as well, isn't it? Giving it the old thumbs up.
You'd be surprised what you can do with a well placed thumb.
That's what she said.
I tell you what, I want to kick this off though by saying I honestly can't believe that we've got a guest that's fucking shorter than you. I expected 5 more vertically challenged individuals to walk in behind you two, singing "Hi Ho."
We're normal size. You got that tall person disease, where you think you got like 3 inches on everyone, and you think it makes you like...
And the rest.
You're the person that gets on the airplane, and you say, "Oh, these seats are a little bit too small for me, I need extra."
It's costing us a fortune in booster seats in studio. We're going to have to get some regular sized guests in soon.
I brought my big boy shoes as well, so it bumped him up a little bit.
It's come dressed like this, like a floating head.
Well, I knew I was coming through Leeds. I didn't want to get attacked by anyone, so I was like,
you brought a bit of weaponry as well, which we're going to get into a little bit later. I'm excited for this. We're going to sort of break it down into 3 sections, this podcast. We're going to talk a little bit about YouTube, a little bit about your time before YouTube, and then we've got a little challenge at the end, which should be super interesting for the viewers, but I imagine it'd be just as interesting for the listeners.
Yeah, indeed. We introduced Honor as a... I don't like the phrase YouTuber. He has a YouTube channel, but that's not the only string to his bow. But what do you do on YouTube primarily, Honor?
Primarily, I have been doing a lot of making knives on there, but then I've switched out and tried to sort of diversify what I'm making. Weapons, replicating stuff from films, just trying out random things what just come to mind, really.
Not for actual use.
No.
We should say not to stab people with kind of like I would call them like decorative, right?
Yeah, the majority of people who buy them are people who collect stuff like that. I know that a lot of people are like, oh, why are you making this weapon? It is purely for collections. No one's fighting in trenches anymore. They don't need trench clubs. They just want it. Yeah, I don't know why people collect them. People like collecting them.
I think they look cool. Like I might commission you afterwards because you know what? Because I know you do like a lot of stuff which is inspired from the name Dies in Every Film Customs, right? Tells you kind of a little bit about what you do. But there's a really cool sword. I used to play this video game when I was a kid called Final Fantasy VII. There's like a really famous sword from that. It's like it's ginormous. It's probably bigger than me, right?
Probably.
Might get you to make one.
Kitchen knife will be right.
I might get you to make one of those for me, but. Yeah, you do. I think they look cool, right? You go to a lot of places. Like if you ever go to York, right?
Yeah.
Or some kind of old city like that, you'll see a lot of places where will have weaponry on displays. You know, just looks just like having a painting, right? But not.
What's the weirdest thing you've had commissioned?
Probably that chain axe was like at the time because it was a long time ago, and I was making more like realistic stuff, and I was a bit like a chain and an axe, right? Yeah. And he was like, oh, well, I'm an axe thrower and I've just always wanted like an axe with a chain handle. So I did it and it worked pretty well, like it threw well. But it was just at the time, I was just like, what?
For reference, for those that are listening, this one in particular is actually your highest viewed video on your channel as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
So how many views was it?
Is 59 million views, which is absolutely by comparison, my most viewed video is about 5 million, maybe just over 5 million. 59 million views. That's almost the population of this country. Nigh on, right?
I think there's about 60 million people in the UK.
That was about 20 years ago. I think it's more like 70 now.
All right, sorry.
No, I always think the same thing, but yeah.
We're contributing to that problem, being honest, to be fair.
I've had snip now, so it's not.
The snip. And we're going to talk about the snip.
But yeah, 59 million views is absolutely wild. Well done, man. That's amazing.
I think, to be honest as well, like it was at a time where a lot of my videos weren't doing well, and then it boomed, so it sort of gave me a spur on. They do come every now and again, where one video will just do all right and gives you that little kick up the bottom.
Yeah.
Let's jump into the British Army stuff then. So this is obviously pre-YouTube, and we'll bring it back to YouTube again. But just tell us about how you got started in the army. Like, what made you sort of sign up?
Well, it's a pretty long journey. But I was just a bum.
Yeah,
just doing nothing, just drinking, just young, like thinking that I was going to drink for the rest of my life and party with my mates and do stuff, and like it's not sustainable, is it? And then I had like people I knew were in army, and then they said, like, why don't you join army? I'd gone from job to job to job. I never lived it. The thing is, like, if I like something, I'll put everything into it. But if I don't like something, then it sort of is half-assed, and that's it. Like, I made candy floss, and I just used to eat it all. And then I got fired because I didn't make enough candy floss because I was eating it all.
Oh, man.
and then I worked at a place where I picked mushrooms, and you had to size the mushrooms. And one, I hate mushrooms.
So you put it next to your cock.
We've got a lot in common. I hate mushrooms too.
Boom. See you later, Josh. Yeah, I hate mushrooms. You had to size them. You had a chart. And because I hate mushrooms, it was in like a damp thing, because obviously mushrooms don't grow in the damp and stuff. And I hated it. So I did that half-assed, and I got fired from that because they'd be like, well, these punnets here have got all different size mushrooms and they have to be this size. So then it was just like the army. But the best thing about that was, well, for one, I've always been interested in that sort of thing, well, not like fight. I've been interested in films, like war. I had a great granddad who was obviously in the war. He used to tell me stories, and it's always perked me interest. Like, I like history and the history of war, and there's always war. Like, there's never ever not going to be a war. Like, with humans comes war. It's the same as like the YouTube comments, it's just part of our nature in it, and it's something what's interested me. So I went and signed up. I just dove in, and then, like we were saying before with the business thing, people were saying, you won't last long, you won't be able to do it. And I'm stubborn, like I'm real stubborn. So I'm like, sound, I'm doing this. So like, I'm not like a fit guy. Like we went to the 2 days where you do loads of tests and that, and I failed the running, but I did everything. Like I like surpassed all the strength stuff like by loads. Like it's weird how weak people are. Like everyone, yeah, you do like pull ups.
You noodle arms.
Like you do like a pull up test, and I was like, there was a para who's from Scarborough as well, me and him up front, and I was like paranoid about these pull-ups. I was like, oh God. And he went first, and I think he did 16, and I was like, oh God, like I don't even think I'm going to be able to do 16. And I just kept going and going. I did 14. Everyone else after us, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And I think the max was like 4.
How many you have to? How many, is there like a pass mark? Like,
I don't even think there's a path mark, to be honest. I think it's just like, just as long as you can do 1
You
or
have to
2.
be able to do one, yeah.
Yes.
I could do chin-ups all day long, man. Like that's the one that wasn't like a brag rant. Well, it kind of was, but like I'm good at that. That's because I'm light though. I'm light. So, but yeah, I mean, it is odd though. When I don't know many people that can do just a bodyweight pull up,
Yeah.
which is like that is astoundingly weak. That's kind of like concerningly weak. Not just like from a egotistical point of view. Like as you get older, you want to be at least just kind of functionally strong because you can prevent injuries, you know, and your posture will be better and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know many people can do a chin up. So like 16, 14 is pretty solid.
It's weird because I sort of feel like he went first and obviously I went second, because we did that many. I feel like it sort of took it out of people as well. You know, like they'll do 1 or 2 and then they're just like, oh, I ain't doing that many.
Can't compete.
What else did it entail in the... so this was like,
it's weird. So there was like a bike chain on the floor with like a grip on it, and you had to pull up, you know, like obviously using all your back strength. There was all sorts of stuff like that. Like there was pulling ones, then there was pushing ones, then there's obviously press ups, sit-ups, all sorts of stuff like that, and then they'd put all the numbers together, and then there's the 1.5 mile run, which I think for infantry you have to do it in under 11.5 minutes. And the weird thing is, right, so that we did all the strength ones on one day, and the next day was the run. We get up on morning, we'd been up all night chatting, just pure shit all night. Like it was weird how like the night they're just like, right, it's time to get up, and we're all like, oh fuck, we hadn't even been to sleep. We went for food. I get like the biggest bowl of porridge, and I'm just like hop, hop, and like halfway through that they're just like, right, come on everyone, get outside now, straight up 1.5 mile run. So I'm like, obviously the para's like straight off, and I'm like running, I'm like, oh, I'm doing all right here, and then like it's like I'm running backwards and everyone's like going, and then I get like this almighty stitch, and I'm like, oh,
that's the porridge. That was the porridge, man.
It just kicked in. But like I see this guy, like he runs past me, so I'm like, right, like I'm assuming he's the last guy. I just need to get in front of him, so I run like and just keep in front of him the whole way around. And he was joining Tanky, so he had 13.5 minutes. And I came over, but when I went to the office, like it was weird because I'd never have like, when I wanted to join the army, it was just purely like, I just want to join army. But there was people there who were lifelong military families and that, and they were coming out crying because they hadn't passed.
Yeah. And
I'm just like, oh God, I'm going to fail. If he's failed, and I went in there and the guy was like, look, you failed your run, but all these other, like all your strength stuff, you surpassed like a lot more than like, so everyone's strength stuff was low, but they passed the run, whereas all your strength stuff was high, but your run was low. So we aren't going to fail you, and they passed me.
Yeah.
And I was like, fucking hell. But then even then, I come outside and I'm seeing other people crying. I'm like, fuck, like I'm doing this just for shit, you know, just cause.
Yeah.
And they want it so badly and they ain't got it.
We saw it when I went to Dartmouth, so that's like your officer training for Navy. It were we were already in at that point, but they make you do the 1.5 miles just to set a benchmark. But again, like they kept you up all night, and then the PT took us and like absolutely thrashed us for. It must have thrashed us for an hour, and then going, right, you're doing your 1.5 miles now, and he hammered us like half of people failed. I think I only failed by like a few seconds, but it absolutely savage. And again, they were from a lot of people that went to Dartmouth. Like I'm just a scratter from West Yorkshire, just from a regular working class family. But there was some from like proper, as you'd expect in officer training. There was some from big families going to military college. You know, I was like, oh.
That's another thing actually. What I forgot was after we'd had the meal, they took us, because obviously we didn't know the route. They took us on the route, the PTI, and they thrash you and then they come back round and they go, right, go, and then that was it. You know, I forgot all about that. Yeah, that was just obviously added it to it, so it's pretty much like 3 miles.
Yeah, exactly. It's not 1.5 miles. We're going to do 5 miles, then we're going to make you do your fastest 1.5 miles at the end.
The cardio element of that I think would do me in. I'd quite like that. Would be a cool YouTube video though. If we could, you reckon we could like speak to some barracks somewhere and get them to put us through a test. And just eat a bunch of food afterwards, kind of tenuously tie it into eating. Because I think I'd be all right with most of the strength stuff. The run, I'd be done. But
we'll try connect it up. We'll try.
That'd be cool. Because a lot of I've seen those. That's not a new idea for a video. I've seen a lot of those like person does army fitness test.
Yeah.
But like,
so get in with the MOD and go do it.
Yeah, that'd be neat. And then you could eat a bunch. I love that. I've done a couple of those. MREs, army meals, right? And like I get people from like the from services, and they'll be like, oh, they taste like shit, and I'm like, no, I actually enjoy these. You pour them in your little canteen. Some of it's just
the MREs are good.
Yeah.
The British ones I'm not keen on, but when we were in Afghan, we got loads of the MREs and so nice.
They're good.
Get M&Ms and that in it. Because Gatorade.
They're supposed to be calorie dense, aren't they? So they've got like nutritious grub in there, but it's good, flavorful stuff.
Just Google that for us, Mike. How many? There's something like there's in one box. There's your daily amount of calories, and then some. It's something like 3,000 calories in a box.
It is a lot, and I know the military ones, as with the British ones, they bung you up as well. So you can only have them for so long. Like when we'd go training, I think you can only eat them for, is it maybe a week or 2 weeks, and then they bring fresh grub in. Like when we were in Belize, they'd have to bring fresh grub in every now and again because it's obviously no good for you. Like one day you'll just have a massive human-sized shit. It's like every single.
Well, that feels like.
Every time we do a podcast, we end up talking about shit, don't we?
Yeah, the shit podcast.
It's like the male thing, innit?
Yeah.
It's just like shit.
Especially with him. I mean, like
everything comes back to poop.
Well, and shitting yourself as well. We spoke about that on the first podcast.
It happens.
It does happen.
Tell us about your tours then. So, tell us where you got sent to. You went to Bosnia, didn't you, first?
No, well, weirdly, I passed out of training, and I remember being in training. My mum obviously came to like the pass out. She brought me a letter, and it was like a letter saying, you'll get to battalion straight to Afghan.
Oh, really?
So like it was quiet in Afghan then. To be honest, I think we only had like one contact while we were there. So I did 2 months. I got to battalion. I did maybe 3 weeks at battalion, and then 2 months in Afghan. Came back. Then we had.
What were it like just on that? So your first trip to Afghan, what did it feel like?
To be honest, it was weird because obviously being the new kid in like the block with all the oldies and that, like people obviously try and like bully you and stuff, and you get all shit jobs and stuff. But I enjoyed it, like I just mustered through it. Like other people couldn't really hack that, but I had that stubbornness inside me where I just thought like obviously they're doing this. All new kids are going to get this. All new people are. It's like who gives a fuck one day.
Was it? I'm curious to know. Was it kind of scary knowing that you're going to Afghanistan? In like inherently, because you obviously would have seen like what, or heard at least what's going on there. And I think that would just in me that.
To know that you're going to an active war zone.
Well, yeah,
that's going to be like.
It's weird to say it, but I would be more scared of going into town, just a normal town with people, now. Than going to Afghan. I'd go to Afghan. Like it didn't bother me. I'd never. It's weird. Like it didn't bother me at all. I remember when I took my section commander and I was like, oh, I've got this letter, and he was like, helmet and body armor, and I was, oh, this is fucking cool. Like this is what I joined for.
That's it. I mean, when you live into, I remember when the careers days used to come to like school, or like when you first go to sort of sign up and you look at people and they're in camo and that you're looking at an SA80 or you're looking at a GPMG and you're like, fucking hell, that's cool. Like I want to get my hands on one of them. I suppose you're a different mindset.
I'm like the absolute opposite of you guys. Yeah, no,
I suppose that's right, innit? Like it's what you wanted to be doing.
Well, that's like I had the whole intention of joining the army. Like through my whole career in the army, all my reports: shit soldier in camp, good soldier in field. I'm fucking shit in camp because to me that's not being a soldier.
Yeah.
It's just getting the discipline. I aren't disciplined either, so it's just trying to instill that in you. And I don't like shooting people, but I like the combat side of it. Like when we're training, we're on live firing exercise, and we're firing at targets and trying to figure out situations. Like you're trying to attack a position. And like I remember one time when I can't think what area it was on, but it was a section attack position. I was in command of the section, and it was a flanking attack. Like because obviously like certain areas, right. This is a right flanking area. And we got on there and I did full frontal, and after the guy was like, this is a fucking right flanking attack and you full frontaled it. I thought I was going to get absolutely annihilated, and he was like, but you smashed it. He was like, you shouldn't have even been able to do it because it's designed that it's just flat ground, but you managed to somehow work a way around and full frontal this fucking right flanking attack position. Like I like figuring stuff out. I didn't know it was a right flanker. Obviously they know because they designed it, but then I just did whatever.
Because that's what you sign up to do, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
like that's the reason you sign up to be active. And I think, obviously, we'll get into it, but like I think after the fact, that's what a lot of people like when you first sign up. When after 9/11, you saw a lot of Americans signed up to be patriotic and say, right, I want to go to Afghanistan and Iraq, and I want to sort of fight for my country, without realizing what the reality of, I guess, war and the consequences, and then the mental consequences of thereafter that you've got to live with. But yeah, so obviously you came back from Afghan then after that first tour.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, we fully segued off to
all right.
somewhere else there, didn't we?
It's all right.
Yeah, came back from Afghan. What did we do then? I think we did Belize jungle training, which was real fun. Like living in jungle, learning to survive. Set traps, all sorts of stuff there. That was a really fun tour because that was stuff what I wanted to do. Like we did attacks in the jungle, and it's weird because I always say, like, when we're in the jungle, like it's not like people think like the jungle's like woods like round here, and the canopy is so like dense. You have like over 12 hours sleep a night. Like you'll set your hammock up and it's dark. Once it's dark, the night sights don't work. The night sights work off ambient light, so they need stars, they need the moon. There's fucking no ambient light, so you're not doing anything. So you're just in your fucking like in your sleeping bag, and that's it. And like I remember, like you'd shine your torch out, and all you'd see is that I think they're called wolf spiders, and you'd see the little beady eyes, they're like cat's eyes, just fucking loads of them everywhere. So I'm like fucking eye out moving out this cunt until like I'm not moving out of this at all. Like I'm staying. I fucking hate spiders.
Yeah, I couldn't. That's one reason why I'd never want to go into jungle, because of the moisture of the place and the bugs that come out at night, and then obviously like cats and stuff that live in the jungle.
I can't think what we were watching the other day as well, and like what this fucking we were watching. I was watching something with a little lad the other day, and there was the howler monkeys, and I remember once like we were doing like, because you have to learn to map read and stuff. I mean, fucking map reading in the jungle is pretty much impossible.
Yeah.
And we were doing like sort of like map reading things, and we got to a bit, and all we thought it was a fucking warthog, and like obviously we did training before that, where like you get like if you hear a warthog, you need to keep the fuck away from it, because they'll just fucking murk you all off.
Yeah.
Like the big strong things, they'll just start running at you and smash into you. And we thought we heard one, and it was actually the howler monkeys doing the warthog noise and watching us. Like they just
It's a smart monkey.
yeah, apparently, like when we came back, we were like, "Oh, we thought it was," and they were saying, "Yeah, like the howler monkeys will do stuff, and they'll like throw stuff at you to try and wind you up. They're like sort of intelligent, and they know what they're doing, and they'll just laugh at you."
That's incredible, that, isn't it? That is amazing.
Yeah, I can't think of many things more terrifying for me. Like I'm the indoorsy type. I killed a spider the other day, and it was about the size of the bottom of this glass, and I felt like I don't know, some kind of hero after. Yeah, I felt like Rambo afterwards.
You're like, "Kill me, I'm here."
That's Predator, but yeah, but yeah, like
I can't think of any Rambo stuff.
I can't think of many things worse than that, really.
Did you see any like tarantulas and stuff while you were in
Well,
there?
yeah, our platoon sergeant, he actually opened the top of his Bergen, and there was it wasn't a big tarantula, it was sort of a baby one, but that was on top of it, like in the top. It must have crawled in and sat in there.
I like how you said baby one, and then you went like that. Like that ain't baby.
There was
Yeah, but it's tiny though. It's like into perspective, it's actually not big.
Normal domestic spider size.
like there's obviously we do, before we went in there, you do stuff like teaching you about stuff, and one of the biggest sort of things what I hated there was when you piss in the jungle. Obviously, there's no toilets. You're not allowed to do a solid stream of piss. You've got to break it, because there's these, I can't think what they're called, but they swim up your piss, and they have like barbs, and they'll fucking bury themselves in your dick. So like that was even like nowadays when I think about it, I'm pissing in toilet thinking, what if there's one in toilet? Like,
Oh my god!
so
That was descriptive. Bury themselves in your dick.
Have you not heard of these?
I thought that was like a thing where, like, if you're peeing in water, I didn't know that they could actually jump into like your stream of urine.
Yeah,
and
No,
swim
you're
up
like,
it.
that's the thing, because obviously the jungle's moisture. You might be weeing somewhere, and there might be like a pool of water there.
Yeah.
So like anywhere, they were just like, look, if you're pissing, just make sure you break the stream, because like if you piss directly into water, pretty much you are 100%. But you don't want to be then have like a puddle what you don't see, and then you're pissing in it, and then you got a barb dick.
Well, Mike, can you Google what this creature's called? 'Cause we need to know what that's
I can't
called.
think what it's called.
But what other sort of creatures? So we've got one creature in the jungle. So your boss has found a tarantula in his Bergen. You were obviously, chances are that you get something that's going to swim up your stream of piss and dig itself into your penis. How do you get that out?
I don't know. Like I remember watching the thing. Like they show you all sorts of like pictures and that, and I remember watching that, and everyone, as soon as they were talking about things just swimming at me piss, it's just like, nah.
Nobody knows because everyone
no
sees
one
that and they think, right, okay, this isn't
I
happening
wonder if
to
it's
me.
like a joke that they're just telling.
It could be. I didn't always say that to people, but apparently people have heard of it. So.
I've heard of that
I've
before.
never heard of
Probably on like a Bear Grylls show or something. But
What? So other creatures were in the jungle then?
Well, there was when we were doing the we do a river crossing while we're there, and we were near a big lake which has, I don't know if it's alligators or crocodiles, whichever one. There's obviously different ones, and I remember one night, obviously we go to bed early, and all night you could hear like. And the next morning we get up and everyone's Bergens and stuff, because they're just underneath your hammock, had moved, and it turns out it was the alligator or crocodile what lives in that thing, and it had just been walking underneath us.
No way.
So we're basically like hanging food just there.
How high up off the deck were you?
Probably about as high as this table. Like, it wasn't real high.
Yeah, so like a crocodile or an alligator will definitely be able to just...
You could just have a little snacky snack.
that is wild.
But obviously they don't know you're there, so it's
I fucking love this. I love this story. I love these stories, right? Because in the generation that lives today, they ain't got a fucking clue what the real world's like. So like, that's how real is that? Like, that actually there's people still on the ground doing stuff like that day to day, you know.
Well, when you do the river crossing, obviously it's weird. The river crossing, you've got to obviously lighten all your load, make sure your webbing's floating, and then you sort of like form like a human chain across the river. And we were supposed to do it in a lake, which was obviously still flowing, but we ended up doing it on a fast flowing river. But then you have guys at the sides with shotguns as well, for in case anything like tries to come and get you.
Oh my. Can you imagine?
I can't imagine. I got terrified when I saw like a thing that said that I was rumored to be an I'm a celebrity, and I thought, I fucking hope they don't ask me. Man, like I've seen them in they're in a controlled environment with a couple of domestic rats, and like that terrifies me. So the thought of actually being out in the wild with nobody to help you, things swimming up your knob, alligators like taking your flipping.
Can you imagine
supplies.
how small it'd have to be to get up yours as well?
Yeah, it would have to be mine, because it would have to be a tiny one. Yeah.
Mike, do we have a name of this creature?
Yeah, it's called the kangaroo fish, and it says that it's sort of contested online as to whether it's a myth or not.
Oh God!
But like, some people have come out and said that like it's happened to them, but there's like just not the evidence to support it. But it's sort of whether you believe.
You won't
it,
take your chances, would you?
Yeah, you ain't chancing that.
Nah.
I can't.
To be honest though, when I was in Belize, it was quite a long time ago, so it was before the big internet. So it probably is a lie. Like, it was a PowerPoint presentation, a pretty weak one as well.
Well, tell us about your tours. Well, Afghan then. So, Bosnia.
Yeah, I went to Bosnia. Bosnia was. I don't know why I say good. Everyone, like, I say stuff on like these podcasts, and I'm always like, oh, this was good, and everyone's like, what do you mean good? That's good. You went to like a war zone and it was good. But I feel like Bosnia was pretty eye opening. You know, like, we actually toured loads of. Obviously, there's no war there. We're just like, in Bosnia, it's this weird. Actually, we're protecting trees. Like, people illegally log, so people will go up, cut loads of trees down, and it's weird, like the mafia or the underworld, and they're selling illegal trees. So we were there like policing. So we'd go up, we'd find like trees, make sure they've got all the tags on them, like they have to be tagged, and it's such a weird thing. Like, I remember one time we'd seen a guy, like, so we were on like a flat plane just stopping trucks, and a guy, like, you could see his car coming down this hill, like swimming all over the place. And we were with like local police, and he came shooting down. Police stopped him. He was absolutely paralytic. He still had, like, I think he had either a can or a bottle of beer in his hand. And then we're like, right, well, he can't take his car. He's not allowed to take his car. Like, we're higher up than the police there. Like, we could tell the police what to do, but the officer was like, well, no, what we do here is, like, if he's drunk, he has to go home. He's not allowed to go to his destination. And we were like, all right, yeah, sound. We don't want him to get there. And the guy gets in his car and drives off home, and we're like, why have you let him go home? And he was like, oh yeah, but, like, he drives home in his own car. He's just not allowed to drive to wherever destination. He has to go home now. What the fuck? The guy's like paralytic, like, you couldn't even stand properly.
And there's no way to police that either. Did you come across? So you were policing illegal logging. Did you actually come across anybody with illegal logs?
No, we never did. I think like the worst thing that happened was we were driving, because it's highly mined. Like, it's highly mined and it's unmarked as well. We were driving through like an area where it was just, I was a new driver then, and we were driving in left-hand drive vehicles. Obviously, it's left-hand side of road to drive on. and we drove onto this track, and then the Gary, the lad, he's from Scarborough lad as well, he was like, all right, stop here. And he was looking at map and he was like, fuck. And I was like, what? And he went, this is a minefield. Like, it was one of the minefields that like stay on the fucking tracks. And bearing in mind, like, the tracks were thin because obviously everyone who'd been on there was trying to keep it on. Oh my. And I was like, fucking hell.
You just sat there shaking. Can you imagine?
Like driving off on it.
Nah, I think mine's are terrifying. Have you ever seen
your Tesla would be fine though, wouldn't it? I don't know, the new patch has got it a little bit squiffy, it keeps telling me I'm going to hit cars when I'm not, they're like 30 yards away from me. But, mine's, it kind of freaks me out because if I ever hear about landmines, it reminds me of that scene from Rambo, but the new Rambo, when they throw in those...
like, kill me.
When have you seen it, like, when they throw mines in like a river, these evil... I don't know where he is actually, but and they get like civilians who they've captured and they bet on them to see if they're going to get through his minefield and blow up. So like that's what I was thinking of, because I can't think, because a lot of, I guess sometimes you die, but like a lot of the time it blows your leg off, right?
Yeah, the whole, like, obviously depending on what mine you stand on, a lot of those mines there, I can't think of the name of them, but they dropped them from aircraft and they've got wings on, and as they come, like them. Like the seeds, what you get on some of the plants where you drop it and it spins around and lands. They're designed off that, and they dropped them from airplanes. That's why they're unmarked, and they just dropped them everywhere. And a lot of them will blow your foot off. But the whole reason in designing a mine is if you take one guy out by injury, it takes 4 people to look after him. That's 5 people out of the battle. So it's, rather than kill someone who'll just get left there, you've then taken away 5 people. And, if it's only a section of 10, then...
That's interesting, that, isn't it?
Terrifying, but yeah, interesting at the same time.
I think but it's fascinating, isn't it? Like as a civilian or whatever, you wouldn't consider the tactics behind war. Like you hear a lot online about the Taliban this or whatever that, but you don't consider how educated these individuals are and how much they've sort of, war ready, battle hardened ideas and tactics that they've come up with. And there's like, from all the wars that we've been through, we've taken tactics from Northern Ireland and took them to Iraq, or you learned in Iraq and took it to Afghanistan. It's pretty fascinating, really.
Yeah. Have you ever read The Art of War by Sun Tzu?
No.
They always it's literally essentially a documentary book about how to win wars, right? Yeah. And percentages, but it's always in like the when they do like the top 100 books to read before you die.
Yeah.
Because of like how insightful it is. Because I read a little bit of it. I don't know why. Probably on a plane somewhere. And it literally talks about stuff that Honor's talking about. It's talking about mathematical probability really more than anything else.
Yeah.
So like if you could take one guy out and then that's going to make another 4 people, put another 4 people out of action. That's part of like how. So there is like, however much you might disagree with war, like me, I'm a pacifist, but there's obviously an art to doing it, or like a skill to how you win them. It's not just bodies, right? It's not just whoever has the most bodies wins.
How did it end then in Bosnia to go through that minefield? What was the...
I've still got both my legs, so that was good. we got through it all right, yeah. Like I think on that same day as well, we were driving up, like we're going up all the forestry areas and that. We went up this big like mountain, and that was like a thin track, both drops either side, and then it absolutely started shitting it down, like raining. And if anyone's ever seen like the military Land Rovers, the window wipers like they don't work properly, so we had to like sit there until the rain went, because obviously we were like scared, like, well, what if we're driving forward and then we just slip off the side? I'd say like it wasn't more dangerous than Afghan, but it was dangerous for the fact that it wasn't really a war. Yeah. Like I remember one time when we were going on the ranges, and we didn't drive ourselves. We went on a coach to the ranges, and then a lot of the you'll see them on like videos, where they're like reversing and they're like real tight. A lot of them like the tracks around the mountains, and this guy's like flinging it everywhere. Like squaddies will sleep anywhere. I've never known all squaddies to just be wide awake for a trip. We were all just like, fucking hell. Like I remember I was sat up front with a lad called Temple, and we were both like, we're gonna die on this. Like it's not even like we aren't dying in combat, even we are dying because a guy's flinging his coach round bends where there's no barrier. There's just like, you can see where like, like where there's a road, and then you can see where the road's sort of slipped away because there's like loose gravel and stuff.
They have those in Hebden Bridge though, like in West Yorkshire. Those are scary.
Tell us about the second tour of Afghan then.
Yeah, that was I was going to say it was a good one again. It's just what I say. I think that was probably as tours go, I'd say that was probably the sort of more brutal tour that I went on. I originally signed off to leave the army because, in fact, while I was in Bosnia, I was like, look, I don't want to come to these places. I want to go to a combat zone. So I was like, I request for attachment. I put in a request for attachment to go to Iraq because I knew a guy who was in Iraq, and I requested to attach to that, and they denied it. So I was like, well, fuck this then. I'm getting out. And then next thing I know, they're going to Afghan. So I was like, right, I'll sign back on. I'd missed all the training. And I was like, I'll sign back on, but I want to go to Afghan. So they were like, okay, 2 weeks, you're flying out to Afghan. So, well, I think, no, it must have been longer because I had a holiday booked. No, I went on holiday for a week, so it must have been 2 weeks, yeah. So I got that, came back, flew straight out to Afghan. Because I can't think who it was, the Queen's Royal Guards or whatever, they were on before us, and I think it was the Mercians as well. They had like a rough tour, like lost a lot of people. We relieved them early, so like we got in there, and usually you just do loads of training, you know, acclimatise and that. I think we were in camp like 2 days, and then we were straight on ground. And it ain't like our purpose while we were there. We were working with the Afghan army. We were training them, so we'd be in a fob like in the middle of nowhere. Like we went to Sangin to start off with, and we were in a fob called Tangiers on a road which is aptly named the Run of Death.
And did they tell you that before you get there?
Yeah, on
You're
the way,
going on the Run of Death
there,
today.
the guy's like, he's wearing like a Manchester United top or whatever, and they were real lax, and like, he's like, right, this is. In fact, they were on. I think the BBC were out there filming at Tangiers with them before we got there, and yeah, so he's like cutting around like, you know, like as they do, and he's like, yeah, the Run of Death. But we were then, so all there'd be is 8 of us, and then it'd be 12 Afghans. So each day we'd go out on patrol. Us, what do you mean? 8. Yeah. So us 8 would go out on patrol, and then 6 Afghans. We'd take the Afghans with us, and then we'd sort of teaching them how to patrol, and we'd patrol every single day. We got in loads of contacts there. Like there was a place called the Tank Park where you'd like walk down the Run of Death, and then on your right there's just like a park where all the Russian tanks were just left there, and they'd use it for cover, and then they'd sort of like attack. I mean, like the first time we got attacked on there, we did like a full frontal attack, and we're like smashing through it. It was weird because it had a trench at the front. And I remember like we were sat in that trench, and I remember like Dave or one of the lads who I was in with, and we looked at each other and we were like, this is fucking crazy. Like there could be mines and anything here. Yeah. And we were just like blasting through it. But you know, like there's the green zone as well. So this bit was sort of like in the desert land, and behind that was a green zone. It was sort of perfect place to attack because they could attack us from like a building which was at the bottom, and then as soon as we get anywhere near there, they're in green zone, they're gone. You know, you're not going to find them. Yeah, it was fun. Fun.
Well, that's what you were there to do, wasn't it? Like you wanted to be doing some soldiering on the ground, boots on the ground, bit of contact.
Yeah, but I mean, what I remember one of the times actually we were driving through to go to another patrol base because we had vehicles there. Like we had we had a Land Rover, soft skin Land Rover from when the Paras took it, and it had a Humvee door on the back for the top cover because obviously like there was sandbags underneath the seats and that. What obviously everyone's paranoid about getting a dick blown off, so we'd have like sandbags. As you would be. Or you'd have like your small body armor plate, and you'd stick that underneath like your dick whenever you're going anywhere.
Was it in case you get like the vehicle goes over a landmine?
Because like the newer ones, they have like a belly plate which like obviously pushes out the explosion, but this was like an old one, so it was soft skin, just standard Land Rover you'd see.
So you put a sandbag under there. Yeah. Does that actually do anything?
Puff of smoke. I think you'd be pink mist and a bit of smoke. I don't think it'd do out. I think it's just peace of mind.
You've told me before that you had there were a lot of superstition on tour, weren't there? Like you said that you on each tour you didn't wash your
trousers. I've still got them, yeah. I wore the same pair of trousers throughout the full 7 months we did there. I didn't wash them. I don't know why. It makes no sense, but like I survived a lot of explosions.
Oh my God. You take your chances, wouldn't you? Like, I won't wash my pants either if I thought this is
people had all sorts, like people had socks or stuff like a hat. They'd have a hat or they'd take something with them. Like I know one thing what we also did as well, we'd keep like one spare round in our top left pocket just in case it came to that. And you fucking...
Because you're out of ammo and like that's your last...
You don't want to like... Obviously before then, that this is when they were putting all the stuff on telly, you know, like where they're chopping people's heads off, and I mean, fucking hell. I think I'd rather do that.
Oh, right. So like
for yourself, yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, I'd rather do that than
This must be making your head fall off because this is like
Yeah, man, I don't like it. Well, I thought this was going to be fun today because I've seen it on his YouTube channel. So I thought, we'll talk mostly about that. And then Josh is like, well, yeah, no, but we're going to ask him about like his tour, like in active duty. And I'm thinking, oh man, that's not my kind of thing. But that's.
Do you think it's? I think it's fascinating though.
Yeah, it's super interesting. But like to be in a room with somebody who's actually been through it is kind of. Because you never know, man. Like you imagine like national conscription again. If there's like a World War III. I couldn't deal with that shit. I went paintballing once. I got shot like 4 times in the back after about 6 seconds. I was thinking, fuck this. And it hurt too. I'm thinking, I'm out, man. I won't go paintballing because I'm terrified. So like actual real bullets and bombs and stuff, not my bag. I think I'd just claim exemption, like Ali did back in the day, and just like go into prison and just be like, okay, whatever.
He's comparing himself to Muhammad Ali.
It was the most famous person I could think of to like to not to refuse. But yeah, I'm a coward, clearly.
I think, it's weird you say it, like, and people, whenever I tell people stories, people are always, like, not everyone's, I wouldn't say like me, like, I did it and I wanted to do it, and the stuff what I did, it's not like I enjoyed, because war's, like, no matter what anyone says, war's not good. Like, the British Army are not there to fight a war. The British Army we were there for peacekeeping. That's why we had, like the Americans were in the Humvees armoured everywhere. They used to say we were crazy because we'd have, even our, like, the armoured belly, the underbelly armoured Land Rovers, they're open. They have, like, this jankel, like, Kevlar armour around the sides. But you could see everywhere from there, it's like an open top thing. Obviously you have the roll cage, but there's no like armour on top or sides near your head. That's because we had to go out and we'd speak to people, we'd get to know people. That's why for a certain period of time they let us have beards so we could associate with them. Like we were there training the Afghans to defend the country against bad, not to fight other people. I think it's a weird, like, because obviously there's people who don't like war and they say that, like, oh, well, you've been out there killing people. We were never there. We never had like a rule of engagement where we would just go and shoot people. We were there, we'd put our foot on the ground, we'd let them know we were there, that's all we were doing. And if they attacked us, we defend ourselves. But a lot of the time, we're not like, we'll go forward, we'll clear the position, and then we'll pull back. We're not pushing forward, trying to smash them and take them out. You aren't gonna. It's not like their military is not like a military like ours. It's a hidden military, like you might take this guy out, but then these guys might do that. Or like that guy, you don't know who you're fighting, you don't have a clue who you're fighting, so it's impossible to fight it like a World War I, World War II situation. It's not the same, but people don't understand like the full concept of it.
Did you start to lose sort of trust in the mission, as it were, over time? So obviously, for day one, peacekeeping mission, we're going to go down, boots on the ground, shake hands, fly the flag, we're here to help you. But then as more and more stuff will go on during a tour, or you'll see more bad stuff happen, you don't know who the enemy is. Surely it gets harder and harder for you to sort of be the sort of good team, because obviously you're going to be looking at them going, are they actually safe, or are they actually talking to the Taliban, for example?
The weird thing is, obviously, that it's their value on things is not. It's not the same as ours, like we'll value our family and stuff, but theirs is money. It's weird. I remember one time something happened. It wasn't us. I think it was the Americans. They brought a dead child to the camp and they're asking for money. You give them money, they go off on the way happy. Like if that's me and that's my kid, I'm not like, give me $50. It's weird. Like their value on things is just for like their own gain. So if the Taliban are saying, oh, well, this and we'll give you this, then they will do it. It's not everyone, obviously not everyone, but certain people will, and it's strange. But I was never there, no matter what happened while I was there. I never looked at everybody as bad. Like there has been situations where I've been where I could have just slotted everyone I looked at, but I didn't, because I don't know. I'm just not that sort of person. I'd never hold grudges, I wouldn't hold the grudge like one guy's a terrorist, but that doesn't mean they're all terrorists, like there was genuine people there when we were there, like the Afghans who were patrolling the streets on their own, off their own back with a torch against the Taliban. We were like past one day and we were like, all right, man, well, like he was like, oh, I'm just making sure it's safe with a torch. Like no like weapons, no nothing. He's just a torch, like if they wanted, they could just kill him. But he's that, like he's that proud of his area that he's doing it off his own back with a group of other people. They'll keep switching through. just a patrol. So you know, like you can't really place everyone as a Taliban, just like everyone's not like that guy.
Were there a way to distinguish between a civilian and a Taliban though, if they were not in sort of military uniform, not in military colours?
So they wear the same stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, like near the end of the tour, we took on one of the leaders, the Taliban leaders. I can't think of his name. He was a crazy as fuck guy. He was fucking mad. Because even he was said, you know, like, it's weird, like, obviously the high-ranking people are like, right, we need to take out this guy. And he was like, why take out that guy? Like, it's not like, you know, like, oh, take out the king and it ends the battle. He was like, you might take that guy out, but then there might be two guys who were near him who were worse than him. Yeah. You know, like, people will probably, like, hate me for this, but, like, it's like the Saddam Hussein thing. Like, for whatever reason, the Americans wanted to take out Saddam Hussein. If Saddam Hussein was in power, he did a lot of bad shit. I'm not, like defending him. If he was in power now, the Taliban wouldn't, and it's sort of that if that makes sense. So because he went
sort of better the devil, you know.
Yeah, loads of other people came out. I mean, I don't really know who is the better in that, but that's that's the example what I always like to use. You know, take out one guy who's bad, the Taliban, ISIS, and then loads of other people start coming forward because they were all scared of him originally. Yeah, just the same as the Taliban leaders. They were actually scared of this guy. He was fucking crazy, a crazy bastard. Honestly, I remember like obviously he was not supposed to leave our site. He was supposed to be with us and advise us and help us. You know, like sort of like because we're trying to arrest the Taliban. You know, like we go to positions and try and arrest them. And one of the days, I can't think whatever they celebrate, he went out off. And we heard loads of shooting, and then like because it was in Musakala, on the top of the mountains, we seen loads of people and like shooting, and it was him. He was just out there partying, just fucking shooting in air, like him and 4 other people. Like bearing in mind the Taliban wanted to like get rid of him, but he just didn't give a fuck.
Well, like some old gold prospector, like just shooting his gun in the air.
Yeah, they were just like just shooting rounds off in the air, like. I can't think what it was they were celebrating, but
what like other sort of rumours or stories have you got about like the Taliban that you wouldn't ever hear on BBC or like that you heard when you were out there? Like,
well, one of them's that I remember one time the Taliban found out that there was a policeman who was known to frolic with children.
Frolic? Cut that shit out, Mike. We can't fucking use that.
It's back never met the cut. But.
And so like obviously one day we went into Musakala Centre and they had a big like a radio tower, and they'd strung him up from there because of what I'd been doing, and cut his belly open. He was strung up. I think he was strung up by his neck. I think it was by his hands, by his neck, and cut his belly open. I think he had his throat cut as well because of like that. They didn't agree with it.
Unbelievable.
It's crazy. But there's stuff like that, like a lot of the stuff that happens there, like you do see stuff in the news, but a lot, like probably 99% of the stuff that happens there you don't see in the news.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Like I remember when our battalion found a big, massive conscription of marijuana, and like tons and tons, probably fill this room. In fact, probably double this size of room and not as high, maybe just one bale lower. And we burnt it all. And the Americans came in. The Americans had their own team who disposed of the marijuana.
Right.
Disposed.
The Americans came in and they absolutely bollocked us. Like, they were like, you shouldn't be doing that. We've got our team. We destroy that. And like, that's one of them things where it makes you question, like, well, so we burnt it and you're telling us off for burning it because you want to burn it.
Yeah, yeah.
But do you really want to burn it?
I remember we were down in Caribbean and we just got to Dominican Republic, and the Dominican Republic Navy had seized this cocaine. I'll show you a picture afterwards. And it were like bales, like massive bales of cocaine. And they'd done like a media day to sort of show people, like, look what we've done. So there's like 2 sort of soldiers stood next to like the size of this room, probably from wall to wall, ceiling high, of these bales of pure cocaine. And they're like, right, yeah, it's good that. And I thought, where's that going now then? We're in Caribbean, we're in Dominican Republic.
Guys like that.
I'm like, so now what happens? You can't help but think, I wonder if that's just going to go straight out the back door, you know, like, because the value of it was so much, like it was pure cocaine that's come from South America up to Dominican. I was like, we'll never know.
We'll never know.
So tell us about the sort of worst encounters you've had then in Afghanistan.
Well, I'd say like obviously the first worst, the worst encounter. The first worst. The first encounter would have been when we were in Sangin, we went on a patrol one day. Everything's hunky-dory as it does. We'd been out, we were coming back in, walking up this sort of single track, big wall to our left, and then all of a sudden there's just like a puff of smoke, and then we're all stood there looking at each other. And in fact, we puff of smoke, and you see something go in air and then drop back down, and then we're all like stood there looking at each other like, what's going on? And we realised that it was a bounding mine, like a bounding mine, the set, so it'll come up, and it has a pin on it, on a wire. It'll reach a certain height and explode at that height, like we were saying before. It's meant to maim people, like it frags and it'll maim people. But luckily for us, it bounded up and didn't go off. So there was like the boss at front and then me next, and the mine was probably probably from me to end at table away from me. And luckily it didn't go off, and we were there for ages, you know, like on that position. We had to wait to bring in EOD to get rid of it and stuff. And it turns out the guy was actually like it was a pretty high wall for me, and probably for anyone, actually, probably for you, Josh, to be honest. And he was on the other side of the wall, you know, like just sat there, just waiting for us.
But you had to change your trousers then, didn't you?
Yeah, it was a pretty weird one.
So he was like triggering the mine.
Yeah, he triggered it. Yeah. So it went off like just as we were approaching it. But that's the thing. Like for a lot of the time, we had I forget all the names. We had their radios, and we could hear them chattering. Like that day, I don't think we had their radios, so we were just out on patrol. It was pretty early on in the tour as well, but we were all like, yeah. Like to be honest, I'll be honest. Like after that day, I thought I'm invincible. You know, like you go through certain things in your mind, and I genuinely thought, like after that day, I thought I'm invincible. Like a lot of the stuff, I'm surprised that I probably should be dead now, because I was pretty lax. But a lot of the situations that happen for everyone there is you get complacent because of that. You know, like something happens. You know, like for example, like one of the times in Kajaki, me and Dave were on a roof, and the rounds are landing. I think I do have a video of one of it. And because it had been damp, you could see the rounds hitting the mud hut roof, and then you could see the smoke raising from it. And then, you know, stuff like that, and you just think, I'm here now. He's shot at this roof all around me. Didn't hit me. I'm invincible. You know, like it's weird. It's weird to say now, because I know now that I'm not. Like, I'll probably fall off toilet and break my neck. That's how ridiculous, you know, like, I'm not invincible.
Did you say that you could hear the chatter of the Taliban then on the radio?
Yeah, which brings me to my next segue of the obviously the probably the worst thing that happened on that tour was seeing my one of the commanders of my group. I seen him get killed. He was an LE captain. He'd been he did 22 years, and I think he'd been like 24 years. Came to Afghan, was supposed to do a desk job, and he was like, I ain't doing this. I want to be on ground. So they put him on ground in Sangin, in our patrol base. One day we go out, strangely enough, like that track where that first bounding mine went off. Bearing in mind, this was at the end of the tour of Sangin, like not me leaving Afghan, but of Sangin. I think I did 10 weeks in Sangin. So it was the first time we'd used that track with a bounding mine on, because I remember walking past it and being like, oh God, Luminek. That's where it was. So we'd gone through all green zone, patrolled it, and we had like the comms, and we could hear the chatter on the comms, and the Taliban was saying, usually they'll say stuff like, yeah, we can see them, but the cat, they'll just do it just to put you off. But this time they were saying where we were, numbers and everything, you know, like, so we were like, right. So we split the call sign. So in fact, at that point, there was been four. So we split up into a team of, because someone was off sick, Kingy. We changed by them. I think there was only 6 of us who were on the patrols, and we'd split up. So because one of them was off, there was me and the boss in one group with 3 Afghans, and then the other lot went off a different way, and we split. And then what you do is like you sort of like figure of 8 it, and you're crossing over. I can't think.
It's called signalling, that, isn't it, from Northern Ireland?
That's what it is. Yeah, and that's what we were basically trying to do, because obviously if they can only see one, they can't see the other one. Yeah. But as we were leaving the green zone after we'd split up, I remember like I was real close to my boss, and I remember thinking, I'm too close, we need to separate, because obviously we have spacings for if you get attacked, you know, if you're too close, you'll get hit, or if you hit an IED or whatever, you all get taken out in one. So I slowed down a bit, and then I started walking up, and it was at like a T-junction, and he got like just to the centre of the T, and just a massive explosion. And like at that point, you know, all I see is just dust everywhere. And then I just, you know, like I'm trying to like work out what's going on, and I can hear like the interpreter's like screaming. He's like and then like as all the dust settles, there's just a massive hole in the floor. There's the boss's legs just laying there, and there's just like bits, you know, like there was electric wires up there, and there was just bits of skin and stuff hanging off that. So I'm like stood there and I'm like, fuck, you know, like I'm going through all sorts of emotions as well, you know, like. I'm there, I'm like, right, I need to do something. And then next minute I'm crying, like, and I'm just like, oh, fucking hell, I can't do this. Because I'm like, you know, like, I don't know if he's stood on something or whether someone's triggered something. I don't know what's going on. But all this is happening in such a fast period of time. In fact, I forgot a bit of it, where when it went off, because I was the back court, like I was like covering the rear. At the front, the Afghans were in front of the boss, and they turned around and started shooting back down, like towards me.
This the Afghan army,
yeah, because the explosion had gone off behind them. They all turned around and they all start shooting in my direction. But I'm like, right, you know, stop. So I get them all to stop like firing at me, and then I sort of like get all my sort of like ounce together, and just to the right there was like a little bit of green grass, and I'm looking, and I'm like if they have dug something, like no one's going to walk, because it was like the walls were like here, like this, you know.
Yeah.
So the grass was sort of in a bit, so they wouldn't dig it there because there'd be no reason. So I thought, right, I need to go up on that. So I went onto the grass, walked up to the interpreter, like his thumb's pretty much hanging off. He looks like he's been shot with a shotgun. There was just pepper like dots everywhere. I think he had a hole in his neck. Where a piece of shrapnel had gone in, and he couldn't like breathe properly, so I had to give him the
morphine.
Yeah, the morphine. I gave him morphine, and then a wagon starts coming down, just a civilian wagon flying down. I'm telling him to stop, so I'm like, right, we need to get the interpreter on here. And I put him in the back of the wagon. I'm saying, right, take this guy to the DC, like the district centre where our main camp is. And he got in there and he went. So I'm like standing there, and as I'd like come up to like where I'm at the T-junction, I look down, and the boss is like the top of his rifle, like the barrel's just sat against the wall, like someone had just placed it there. But like he had the radio, I didn't have a radio, I didn't have comms with the other call sign. So I'm like, fuck, like now what do I do? And I'm looking around, I can't see any batteries, or I can't see any bits. I can't even see his body, like there's no body, there's just his leg there and just bits scattered everywhere else. So I'm trying to work out what to do. So I'm, at this point as well, I'm sort of paranoid, like I'm a valuable target now. Like if these Afghans are like sort of swaying a bit, you know, like they could really just take me. Yeah. So I'm like, right, so I'm like, right, you need to go there, you need to watch it. And I ain't got an interpreter, so I'm not, you know, like I'm trying to explain to them with just hand signals and stuff. So I'm like, right, you go down there. And then I'm like, right, I need to go back, I need to go get a wagon. So I need to go back to Tangiers, and I'm like, right, we're gonna go, and they don't understand me. I'm like going, so they didn't understand me. Like I was carrying a GPMG at that point. I had GPMG, I had a pistol. So then I'm like, right, so I've now got to go. I think it was a mile away. Tangiers was a mile away. I've got to do now what, like run to the end onto the run of death bit all the way up to Tangiers. So I just got my pistol out and I just started running. And I remember like I got into the road that we were on, where it all happened, was sort of like a back road. But then as soon as you get onto the run of death, it's a market, you know, like it's got market stalls and stuff, and there's people everywhere. I got on there, and you know, like it's surreal. It's sort of like a film. Like I remember like a bike flying towards me, and I'm just like, you know, like I'm just like a soldier now, just on my own. So I've got my pistol and I'm firing shots into the air. Like I'll fire a shot into the air, and I'm just like running like fuck.
Were you still carrying a Jimpy at this point?
Yeah, I still kept that. Yeah, I ain't putting that fucker down. Not a chance.
So like a general purpose machine gun, how much does it weigh? Like just for context, so it's not like it's not like a little assault rifle, like an SA-80.
It's the big ones with like the props on the front.
So yeah.
So why were you shooting into the air? Just
because I didn't want to like I said before, like I wanted people to keep away, but I'm not looking at everyone as bad. Like not everyone is going to be bad, but I'm nervous for myself, so I'm firing into the air just so that everyone knows to keep back. I didn't want anyone getting too close, because obviously if someone came too close, then I am going to have to react on that. But I don't want that to happen, you know, like something bad's already happened. I just want everything clear cut, just get there and that's it. So to be honest, like with the Afghans, you know, like they've done it all before, they know what they're doing, and they all kept back, you know, like they knew what was going on. They didn't see me as like any sort of target or any sort of hostile towards them. They just kept back. I mean, like when the bikes were coming, they were swerving around me and stuff, you know. But yeah, so I'm like running towards there. I think I had about like 1,000 link on me as well. It was pretty heavy. I don't even think I could carry it now. I think my spine would explode. But then I got back to Tangiers. Like I remember running, and I remember thinking, like, obviously the Afghans are manning Tangiers, and I'm running down this little track to Tangiers, and I'm thinking, like, what if they see me running towards this and they think I'm a suicide bomber or something? So I'm like, there's all sorts going through my mind, and I remember like running through. So I run up through the gates. They were all fine, you know. Obviously they didn't shoot at me, and then I run through there's no doors, it's just a gap in the wall, and I ran through there, and Kingy was in there, and he was like, what the fuck's going on? I was like, mate, the fucking boss is dead. And he was like, what do you mean the fucking boss is dead? I was like, he's fucking dead, mate. He's been blown up. He's fucking gone. And obviously I didn't know at that point that he was. So then we were like, I was like, we need to go to the DC. So we jumped in the wagon. I think if I drove or if Kingy drove. I think he might have drove and I was on top cover. And we flew back to the DC, and I remember like we came through gates. I mean, that was another thing as well, you know, like seeing one wagon flying towards the DCs. It's another, you know, like you don't know how, bearing in mind there's British troops on there, but you don't know how trigger happy people are and how edgy they are, because we did have people suicide bombing, running up to the gates and stuff. We did have people driving cars with bombs in up to the gates. So I'm like paranoid, like what if they start shooting us up while we're there? Like we were flying like Mach 10, like, because we're on the run of death, bearing in mind usually there's 2 wagons and there's top covers, you know, we've got everyone everywhere, and we know what we're doing. We do it at certain times. Well, obviously not certain times every day, but we know like it's probably gonna be quiet now, so we need to do it now, or wait till it's dark and we'll do it then. And we're just doing it randomly through the day when it's busy, and we're flying down there. So we got through gates at DC. Obviously nothing happened, you know, like I say, the Afghans, they've been there, they know what's going on, they all kept out the way. There's no incidents or anything. When we flew through there, and I remember like getting through, like one of my main gripes with the military and like at this time was, if there was a contact, like a firing contact where you're in combat firing rounds, everyone else from all the other patrol bases or the DC would be there with you because they want it. An explosion, which it was a big explosion. It was a 135 millimeter mortar shell, a British one, and it was actually, like I found out later, it was daisy chained as well. So like it was artillery shell attached to 2 mortars and then attached to 2 more mortars. But when the first one went off, it pulled the wire or something, which stopped the other 2 going off. Otherwise, I'd have been the only one who was alive. Like all the Afghans would have been dead. Like everyone would have been gone.
So that's a tactic then. They've designed that to put sort of one shell attached to another shell attached to it, so to take out a road of people. Yeah,
so it'd have like one, then a wire, and then it's like obviously another one, then another one. It was daisy chained. So like I don't know why. Like usually you obviously take out the last man. So, but I don't know why. I don't know if maybe it's because I stopped and he didn't see me and he saw my boss and took out like those lot, or tried to take out those lot. But luckily for obviously the Afghan soldiers and the interpreter, it didn't all go off. Obviously not lucky for my boss, but it just went off. The main one went off on him. But yeah, so we get through the gates, and I'm like, I fly through gates, and I'm pretty much trying to climb out of a wagon before it's even stopped moving, and fucking no one's doing anything, you know. I remember like I remember how mad I was. Like I fly through gates, bearing in mind like the interpreter's back there. Like I'd got the interpreter back there, so they know that something's happened, but no one's mobilised. No one's tried to come and find out what's going on. No one's done fuck all. And I was absolutely raging. Like I remember in fact he got fired after that. The captain who was in charge of our thing, not the captain, sorry, the major who was in charge of our things. He was a fucking it was a bottle job, you know. Like he never came out on the ground. That's why they sacked him, because he stopped doing stuff. I can't think there's a name for what they call it, you know, like, but he bottled everything. And I came through and I was fucking shouting at everyone. I was like, you're all doing fuck all. You're all just sat here, like, you know, like we're out there on ground. You know, like it's not many of us. Like there's 6 of us. Yeah. There's not many. Like we're all supposed to help each other out. Like you should come out. You hear that fucking explosion. Granted, yeah, you don't want to get too close to it, but you could still get to the area and find out what's going on. Not like just sitting there eating your MREs or some shit, just sitting there.
Not leading by example then.
No, not at all. I think obviously I was on edge at that point, and they did sort of take it pretty well, because.
Well, I mean, you can't even imagine the level of trauma having to seeing that go through it. What happened with the interpreter? Like, what was
he made? Like that was another thing. I went through to the thing. Obviously, the helicopter had gone and taken him. Like they took him back to the main thing, and because I'd given him morphine, I'd not written it on him because everything was so fucking full blast. And there was a woman there, and you know, like one of the nurses, and they do a good job. And obviously, she didn't know what had happened. But I went off it. You know, she was like, because I went in and I was like, look, I give him morphine, and she was like, well, why didn't you write it on his head? And I was like, look at the fucking explosion. You know, like she was real. Like she was pretty much a bitch with me, but obviously it's two sides of different stories. She don't know what I've done, and. You know, like
the protocol would be to write morphine on his head?
Yeah, he'd write on his head that he'd have morphine, because otherwise he'd get back, and then they might give him more morphine. Yeah. But yeah, luckily they'd managed to get it back that he'd had morphine. We did go visit him after as well. It was pretty funny. I took him some biscuits. He was obsessed with biscuits. Weird.
What kind of biscuits do you take?
I think they were just like rich teas, whatever we could find. We just got
classic. That's about all I can add to this conversation. So something food related came up. I'm like, yeah.
Bearing in mind we're in the middle of Afghan, so there's not really that many shops.
Loving the rich tea, man. Yeah.
But yeah, he was obsessed with biscuits. But he was sound, you know. It was real weird because obviously they are real sort of not they're like the passionate people, and it's not religion, but they have like some sort of, and he was real like grateful, like. You know, I mean, I'd be grateful for someone who saved my life, but he was like so, like, it was honestly like I thought he was going to cry when he was saying to me, he was like, I can't believe it. It was like, it just happened, and you know, like, and you were there, you're like my guardian angel and stuff. And he was real grateful. To be honest, I wish I was still in contact with him now. I don't know where he is or anything.
I'm sure you could still, I'm sure there'd be a way for you
I
to
can't remember his name. I just know that he likes biscuits.
I mean, that is unbelievable. I mean, you would be that grateful though. You literally saved a guy's life. But
it was like, it was a nice guy. It was pretty, just a crazy situation, I think.
So what then happened then? So like that happened to you. What's the repercussions?
So obviously I don't know what's happened to the rest of the team at that point. But I'm in there. They sent, in fact, I think it was the Marines? Yeah, we were the Marines. They sent the Marines out. They crashed out because in fact, someone tagged me in something. I think it was one of my videos. Probably one of my videos where I go off it. And then a Marine had seen that it was me, and then he'd said something, and he was like, "You're that guy who came running through the gates." And he was like, "I was like he added me on Facebook. He was like, I was like in the first wagon to get crashed out. Like we crashed out and pulled the other team out."
That's amazing. Imagine that you're that Marine just sat on YouTube one day, you watch it, and you see this guy pop up, and it's the guy that were running through the gates after an idea. Just
small world, you know.
Yeah, it's weird. I was like, "Really?" And he was like, "Yeah, they're like we were like the first lot to get crashed out."
What?
But like obviously they managed to get the other team back, and they were like, so it turns out they'd actually, when the explosion had happened and all the stuff, I don't know what period of time it was. It's, you know, in my head sometimes it takes hours, but in my head it's also like in a split second. And it turns out they'd moved forward to where the explosion had happened, and they'd found because like where we were, there was like a compound, and what had happened was the guy was just sat on like a chair, you know, like out of a car on the roof with a battery and some wires. And he must have seen us and clicked it. And where my boss had gone in the air, and he'd landed right next to the chair where it was. Like they'd found the chair, obviously the guy had like fucked off somewhere. And that's where my boss's body had landed. It landed like right next to him. What? Pretty fucking, like imagine hearing that fucking storming down on you. You just sat there. Pretty crazy. And it was quite far away as well. They did tell me the distance, like it was in the inquest. But I can't remember the exact distance now.
So the guy that set it off, so he'd obviously popped it off, and your boss had gone up in the air and landed next to the guy that had set it off.
Right next to him, next to the thing. So the first thing they said when they came back, they were like, because I was like, you know, like obviously I was saying he was dead just because there was just bits everywhere. His leg, honestly, just, you know, like in films you see stuff and his leg just looked like it was just, everything looked like it was placed there. But I always say to people, you know, like in any traumatic situation that I've ever had, your brain tries to make out, I think to save itself, this isn't real. Yeah. So everything, it was like, everything's been placed there. Like, this isn't real. I remember like when it had happened, I remember just thinking, they're playing a trick. He's going to come out, you know, like it's a joke. Or, you know, I go through like every single emotion that a body could have. I went through every single emotion.
Because you'll have seen, I guess, in your training leading up to Afghanistan, you'll have done sort of battle-ready medical training. Because I know we went through like battlefield sort of, and you would go, they put you in that situation, don't they? They put you into like there'll be a limb one place, then there'll be an amputee there.
Yeah, they have the amputee.
So that's part of the training, is then you've got to go over and treat, you've got to like sort of judge who's the most critically ill. You sort of categorize it and then start treating, and then split your teams to try and, so like you'll have seen that in training, you'll see an amputee amputees in training. So I guess that's your mind trying to take you back to that.
Yeah.
It sounds like the training did you well though.
Oh, it did, yeah. I mean, like obviously from everyone else's point of view after, when I came back and everyone was like, it was weird because that was everything that happened on the tour. That was the first major thing, because we had someone die when one of the wagons rolled over and he'd got crushed underneath it, but it wasn't like a combat thing. So that was the first combat thing to happen on our tour, and everyone was real like, you know, sympathetic towards me, and they would like congratulating me and stuff. But you know, like from their point of view, they just think that it went swimmingly, you know, like everything that happened, but they don't see the other stuff. But it definitely played a part, because obviously the emotions, and I had to try and bring my head round. Like I remember just standing there, I'm just like, my eyes are watering, I'm just like crying. I was just thinking like what the fuck am I going to do? Like, you're going to stand here and cry? Like, what? That's not fixing anything. If anything, that's going to make the situation worse. But it's split seconds, you know, like in that split second, I'm like, my eyes are watering. And then, but yeah, the training came through, and I think that's what got me through it, definitely.
Was that the point that you thought, right, I want to get out of the army now then? Or
weirdly, they did. After that, they asked me if I wanted to go back to the main camp, and I was like, nah, I want to stay here. Like, I want to stay on the ground. So they were like, okay then, but they were keeping an eye on me. And then that day, because obviously my boss had like grenades and he had stuff on him, I was up top speaking to a Scotty, the old RSM, talking to him, because he was the guy, like the, not PTSD, but whatever, it's the trauma counsellor guy. He'd done all that training. And I was up on top of the building at Tangiers talking to him, and they'd obviously taken the grenades to dispose of them just in case they were damaged. And that went off, and then like he was there, and then something happened. I can't really remember, but I know that I was obviously crying and whatever trauma made me do whatever. And so they pulled me back then, they took me back. But then they wanted me back anyway, because obviously they had his repatriation. So it's all pretty traumatic. I forgot about it, but yeah. So obviously seeing him, you know, like his coffin draped, like with the flag and stuff, go on the airplane and fly off with everyone from everywhere was on there. But I did go back on the ground. I was in camp. I couldn't sleep. They gave me sleeping pills. They didn't do anything. And I was just like, look, like it's just not going to work for me just sitting in camp. Like, it was boring. Like, people were shouting at me for stuff. And I was, you know, like, obviously the PTSD doesn't start then, but the parts of it, you react to it, you know, like people are saying stuff and I'm snapping at people, like I'm arguing with people for no reason. Like, I remember like months later when we were back in camp, someone told me to pick a crisp packet up, and I grabbed him by the throat and I was holding him up against the wall. Like, for no, like, it's me, it's my fault. Like, he did nothing wrong, but it was because of that. Like, obviously at the time I didn't know that is that traumatic sort of thing has caused that. But while we were like in the main camp near Bastion, that's what I was going through, and I don't know why, but like, so I went back on ground. Like, we went to Kajaki, and I felt better there. I felt better in just doing the combat things than I did sitting in a camp trying to sleep and not sleeping. It was weird.
You'd think it'd be sort of protocol after like an event like that to take the guys out, you know, or send them back home, or like whatever, start the what's the word? Rehabilitation, as it were. You think that'd be like a protocol?
They did sort of like, they do have sort of, it's a loose protocol, I'd say. Like, they were like, right, this is what's happened, and I'm like, no, I'm not doing that, not a chance.
Right.
Like, I didn't want, but that was mostly probably through stubbornness, and then through the fact that, I genuinely believe if I'd have probably been sent home then, I mean, I'm not going to say that something would have happened, but I know that the state of mind that I was in, especially even just in like, I think I was in camp like 2 or 3 days, the state of mind that I was in if I'd have been at home on my own, it wouldn't have worked. Even though obviously like, oh, go talk to this counsellor. It's weird. I think it's early stages, and then it would have just been worse. So it's not saying that that's not for everyone. Like, some people it would have worked better, but I feel like for me, when I said to them like, I want to stay here, I think that's what because then they just kept a close eye on me after that. Like, I didn't know till after like years later. Well, I didn't know till I got sent away to get assessed for PTSD that they had been keeping a close eye on me, and they knew everything that I was doing, and they obviously knew why I was doing it.
So what is it like then with PTSD? Like, what's the process that you go through? Obviously, you come back from Afghanistan, you go back to base. and then you start the process of, I guess, like counselling or therapy.
No, but I didn't start like the counselling or therapy straight away. They'd keep an eye on me, but then it was like a series of events which led to like, obviously I grabbed Saudi, I grabbed him by the throat just for telling me to pack it up, which was absolutely ridiculous. And every time I say it, I just think how ridiculous it is. And then like, I remember arguing one guy because I put the window wipers up on his car, and then he went off it at me, and he didn't go off it at me. He was like, "Don't do that, it's my car." But then obviously I went off it at him.
Yeah.
And then one night I went out drinking, came back, ripped a fire door off, took a room of other soldiers hostage, put my webbing on, put all my full fighting order on, and I was like, "We're going back to Afghan." And then destroyed my room, threw a telly out window. Woke up next morning just laying on a bed with like Gibbo like lying on the floor next to me, and then it was at that point where I was like what the fuck's going on?
Yeah.
Like, I don't remember. And then everyone tells me after, like, you did this, you know, like you went and locked them in the room and you were fucking telling them to go to Afghan and that. And then that's when I realised that everyone had been watching me, not watching me, but they'd keep an eye on me. Because I went there, you know, like one of the lads was like, "Look, you need to like do some damage limitation here, you know, like you're an NCO, you're going to get fucked for this." And I went to I think it was the RSM's office, and he was like, "Yeah, you need to go to counselling, mate." He said, "We've been keeping an eye on you, we know exactly what it is." Like that was like the day I'm like, "Oh, get out, claws." Like they were pretty sound with me, because obviously they knew, you know, like it is me and I have done what I've done, but and you can't really blame something else for it, but that was sort of the reasoning why. And then obviously I went to counselling after that.
It's amazing that it had to take an event for him to say, right, we need to take action now, rather than you creating the events. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I think they're probably better at it now. Like this was, like I'm probably the first sort of case of that in our, well, not in our battalion. It will have happened but in like the modern era of fighting in our battalion, I think like other people who've had it since then, it's not really drawn out to the same sort of conclusion.
So with all that happened there, so you've come back, you've taken a room full of, you've taken some of you guys hostage. Four of them, yeah. That wasn't actually the consequence of you being kicked out or leaving the army, was it?
No, not all. So like after that, obviously we were supposed to go back on tour, and at that point I was going through my counselling. And like I said before, I'm genuine. You like, I went to the RSM and I was like, "Look, like we're supposed to go back on tour. I'm scared.
Yeah.
I don't want to go." And he was like, "Look, there's loads of people scared in this battalion. Not one of them have come to me and said they're scared. Everyone's making excuses." So they posted me to Catterick, and I was there for I think a year or something. And then while I was at Catterick, I got mentioned in dispatches from obviously that what happened. And while I was at Catterick, we went to get our awards. And while I was at getting our awards for mentioned dispatches, the new CO was taking over, and he was there. And apparently he'd seen me, and he said, "Oh, he's got tattoos on his neck. He's not a very sellable soldier. Like, I want him gone." This was before all the redundancies. So then I've got a kid by this point. I come back from Catterick. I'm like raring to go, you know, like, right, I'm going to go and do some courses, you know, like try and climb up the ranks even more. And then I go in, and the RSMs, like, in fact, it was someone else was like, "Oh, is that you going now?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" He was like, "Oh, I thought you're out now." I was like, No. He was like, "All right. And then I had to go see someone else. And then he said to me, he was like, it was near Christmas, just before Christmas leave. He was like, "Right, you've got two options." He said, "Sign off now and we'll give you 6 months, or don't bother coming back after leave." And obviously me with a kid in that, I was like, right, okay, I'll sign off. And I didn't think out of it. Luckily through that 6 month period, in fact, it was probably less than 6 month period, I had a lot of people looking after me because of it. Like, I had people coming up to me saying, "We've had loads of meetings and people are trying to keep you in the army. Like, people are trying, like, we're trying to defend you, but this guy just don't want you because he tattoos." But obviously at that point they didn't know about the redundancies, so they were trying to get rid of people.
Right.
And it gets like, so I've been put on courses, like people are just chucking me on courses everywhere, trying to get me as qualified as they can. And it gets to like one point where we're on rear party, and one of the guy who's you know, everyone in battalion's out on exercise. I'm on rear party, which is just a few remnant people. He gets one at Scarborough lads to come to my room, and he was like, "Tell Corporal Cagler to get to my office or I'm going to knock him out." And I said to that lad, I was like, "Go back to him and tell him, if he wants to fucking knock me out, he can come to my room." And I said, "I'll be packing my bags and I'll be fucking going." So I thought, like, if someone's like, if you don't like a job and you want to get out, That's different.
Yeah.
I wanted to stay in and they wanted me
to kick you out.
So then why the fuck should I do anything? Like,
Yeah.
I didn't do anything. I used to just stay in bed all day. Like, everyone left me alone because everyone knew the predicament I was in and they'd just leave me. Like, I remember one morning I was like, I'd get back late as fuck. I would just go back just because I wanted to be there, you know, because just in case they did change their mind. And I remember one of the new lads was like, Corporal Cagler's not open. I remember, I think it was Winnie or whatever, was like, shut your fucking mouth. Fucking leave him alone.
Corporal Cagler does what he wants.
It was pretty. Like, I do. It does feel cool when I tell people like I just used to stay in bed and that. I just used to fucking live the dream. It was good. But then obviously it ended up in me. I left. I never actually got out properly. I've never done my final medical. I've never done anything. I think they just ripped me off and that's it. Like, I remember not long ago. Like, obviously I met my new partner and we had our kid and I was like, what would you even do if the police came and got me today and then was like, oh, you've been AWOL for like 5 years?
Could you imagine?
Get yourself to Colchester for 10 years or whatever.
I think the irony won't be lost on the viewers or listeners to find out that Honor's wife is actually a tattoo artist. So he got kicked out of the army for tattoos and married a tattoo. Oh, you're married actually?
Not yet, no.
Not yet,
Thanks
right,
to COVID.
Yeah, pushed it back. We joked actually because we went for Danny Mitchell, went for his stag do, went to, where do we go?
Chernobyl, not Chernobyl,
Chernobyl? This man does like danger.
Auschwitz.
We didn't go to Auschwitz for his stag do. We went to Poland for his stag do, but we visited Auschwitz. And I said for Honor's stag do, we need to go to Chernobyl because it'd fit for his life. So how long after then you left the army did you manage to sort of somehow weave it back to become a YouTube creator? Then like what was that transition like?
It's probably I'd say like I started making stuff maybe when what will it have been, maybe 8 years ago now. And that was just making stuff in my thingy.
Are you self-taught with all that?
Yeah, I just do it. I feel like I'm like my granddad, and I feel like the older generations, that's how it happened. You know, like people who write these books, someone wrote those books. So who taught those to write those books, and who taught that teacher to teach this lesson to teach you how to make something? It all goes back to at one point in time we learned from nothing.
Yeah.
And I feel like I learn a lot better from just doing something than being taught. Like I can learn from people teaching me, but hands-on experience and just doing something, I'll just gradually get better and better. Like I'll ask people questions or I'll look at something, or I just feel like that's it, you know.
It's pretty amazing, like to say that you went through all that in the army, everything you've been through, to be able to now have come out the other side and actually create a successful business, successful YouTube channel. Like to be smashing it like you are, I think it's amazing. You know, like it's a proper good news story.
This is why I say like this is why I have a problem with, you know, like obviously some people will comment and they'll say stuff. Well, if I had that, and I just think like you don't know the history. Like I was living in my car, I had nothing, and then eventually like and then I've thought to myself like I can't live in my car the rest of my life, so I'm doing this, and I've gone from that to this. I ain't got rich parents. We had a black and white. The first TV we had was a black and white, and it was given off by a person down the road, and that was when everyone had colour TVs.
Yeah.
And that was, you know, like we couldn't even afford a TV license, so we had to watch it on Sly.
TV license is an absolute crime anyway. But it's funny, isn't it, when people say, you often get that thing, especially on YouTube, because that's really the only thing I can contribute to in this conversation. But,
or food.
Yeah, or food.
Or beards.
Those rich. You should have brought me some rich tea biscuits. You know, it's funny that people often think of YouTube as one of those kind of luck industries, you know, and they'll be like, oh, you know, you're so lucky. And when you do this kind of thing for a living, of course, you're fortunate to be able to do it. But it's funny that the harder you work, the luckier you seem to get, you know. And that's an amazing story. That's kind of like a turnaround, that, isn't it? To be that kind of what is essentially rock bottom, I imagine, emotionally at least.
Oh yeah, definitely.
To then be like Josh says, smashing it, doing something which is creative, you know, that you love doing, and there's relatively little risk that you're going to get mortally wounded. Well, probably a good thing. But
it also sort of leads on to his success because of, I mean, your outlook on life. Having gone through that will sort of bring to the videos, because you know we joked, we've made a video together before, which by the time this goes out should be live.
OnlyFans.
OnlyFans. Not that one. But you talk about like your view of comedy, your alter ego using Deadpool, all that sort of stuff. It's so unique, and everything you've been through, to be able to put yourself out there online with that with your sort of outlook on life and comedy, like that's what people are drawn to, like, and I think that's why you're successful. Like you have to go through all those things to be so like, I'm doing it, Like no shit's given. I am doing this. And I think that definitely leads to, I think, why you've been so successful with it. I honestly think it's incredible. I think you're a top bloke. I don't want to tell you too often because you're still a knobhead. But it's
and small.
And small. He's smaller than him. It's mental. Absolutely mental.
Still baffling.
It's amazing. One thing that I did want to sort of get into, because I know that me and Honor have spoke about in the past, is the reality of being a YouTube creator, because you have a particular set of viewers with potty mouths about the way that you go about your business. So I think we should dive into that, and I'm sure that Adam will have plenty of questions along the way, but what is the reality of running your YouTube channel? Because I'm sure there's experts everywhere, but especially in something like your niche.
Yeah, I think a lot of people who do have YouTube will realise that I feel like you need to have sort of thick skin, because people tend to be quite abusive or think they know more than they do. We're in sort of a era of time now where people don't know anything, but even though they don't know something, they'll still voice their opinion on something they don't know anything about, even if it's wrong. So, but I feel like I'm set into it quite well, because obviously I was in the military. I'm used to being called all sorts of names. I'm used to being like shouted at every single day. So some guy sat using his mum's internet calling me a loser is not really, when I've got a successful business.
Well, that's it.
It's just like, well, you can say what you want, mate, but I can sit here fine well knowing that I've got a business, which means I can feed my family and I enjoy doing it. So guess who's the one winning?
Yeah, no, I couldn't put that better myself. You get that a lot, I think, especially, it's not even just YouTube, these days. I mean, social media is not, I don't think, the problem, but it certainly compounds the worst behaviors of human beings, I think, because Honor was telling me before we got started, there are people leaving comments saying that he's not making this right, or that you can't do this with steel, and I mean, I wouldn't know, I wouldn't go into like a knitting channel and tell people how to knit, and I think you get that in whatever you do. So like, honestly, I mean, I think having a thick skin it must be hard for people that don't, because that's inherent within me. Like, I've never really cared what people think of me, but that's not to say everyone's like that. And some people might want to create content to entertain people and not have that ability to, be unaffected by stuff. So I think, I don't think that's ever going to change. That's human nature, isn't it? I think it's if you're like the two of us and you can just say, well, okay, I'm happy, you can comment all you like, no big deal, as long as you're successful. Because I think it goes back to that, I don't know who originally coined the phrase, but somebody said that nobody who's ever doing better than you will spend time criticizing you. Yeah. And that's all you have to go back to, because it's always people, like Honor says, probably in their mum's basement, just a bit of time to spend.
But with something like your channel, because it's so technical, you're going to have so many jobs worth thinking that they're like expert welders or expert forgers or whatever. Like, was it hard at the beginning getting the comments, or were you not asked from day one?
I've never been asked. Like, to start off with, I just didn't really reply, but then obviously I started replying to people and trolling them back, which it's weird, because on my social media pages, I've had good things and bad things from that. Like, I've actually genuinely had people who've commented and gone, like inbox me and said, like, oh, since you've been doing, like, your trolling and trolls, I've seen that, like, they're not anything, that used to bother me, but it doesn't bother me anymore. But then I've also had other sides of people where they're saying, oh, like, this is your business, you shouldn't be putting things like this. But like, I've said to all them, like, I'm not trying to sell you like some clean cut business. I'm selling you me as a person. Like, it's a name, it's a brand. I'm part of the brand. Like, if you want fake, go somewhere else. I don't care if, like, I'd rather have like 2 loyal followers who like me for who I am than millions and millions who like me because I'm fake. Like, I can't be fake. I can't come on, like, go on social media every day and try and talk posh or like, oh, look at me, I'm this guy, like, you just get what you get, and that's it. Like, if you don't like it, look away, because that's what I do. It's what anyone else is doing. I always say to people, like, that it's one of them, phrases again. It's like, it's people nowadays, like, will walk, stand in dog shit, and then tell everyone how, like, they've stood in dog shit and they don't like it. But like, I'll look at dog shit and I'll walk around that dog shit. But people are like, oh, your channel's this, or you shouldn't be doing this. Just walk around that dog shit, mate. I'm the dog shit. Walk around me. Simple. I don't care.
I think we need to get that on a t-shirt. I'm the dog shit, walk around me. I like that. I like it.
I think it's really important what you just said there, though. And like, I did actually want to get into sort of like advice for creators or new creators, especially having like I'd hate to say it, two people of your caliber.
Two successful
two
YouTubers,
two successful
And good
YouTubers.
looking.
And horrendously good looking.
With good beards.
Well,
Very true, actually.
Solid
Beards. I wanted to just say about the authenticity online. So obviously you are your brand, but each their own. Whereas a lot of people can get caught up in trying to be fake. Like it's almost like LA lifestyle, isn't it? Like let's put this fake life online. But that authenticity is what will actually draw more individuals to your channel because they can resonate with you as the character that they see on screen. Have you found that with your channel as well?
Yeah, for sure. There's some lots of value in that. I think that's when you look at a channel like a fan base. The reason I think mine is so valuable is because I know the vast majority of them are there because they want to come back and watch what I'm doing because they've seen a level of integrity, from the beginning. Yeah. So I like honestly, you hate to see people quotes being fake. I mean, there's a difference between. I think there are lots of channels you can see which will constantly perform at like tons of millions of views, and the type of channel that is by and large, and it's always people they're throwing their arms around, screaming top of their voice, and stuff like that, and that's not how
all the sidemen.
I didn't want. No, I'm not going to say that. I mean,
he's big enough, so if we say it, it'll make some waves.
Maybe I could end up fighting one of them. I just got asked to do like a charity boxing thing. But no, I think that I'm talking about you really kind of like there are specific types of like drama channels, right? Where you can tell that person is not like that in real life, and there is a difference, I think, between when the camera goes on and it's work time, right? So yeah. I'm different when we're having a chat before these cameras go on, but I'm not me, Yeah. And I think that people, especially these days, given how big YouTube is and how much it grows, see that there are people that act a certain way to get a level of popularity, right? Because you can go to a certain level really quickly by doing certain things, and you'll see videos like tutorials on this, saying act this certain way to get to this certain number of subscribers. When I think real people that are going to keep coming back, the valuable subscribers, are the people who just want to see you for you. So nobody, I think neither of us, nobody at this table is probably going to sell out for the sake of just having more people watch, because what's the value in that,
Plus it's also, you've got to be, like a video takes however many hours to film, like you're on camera for like some shots are a couple of seconds. It'd be hard to do that and then transfer it into real life. People are going to see you on the street, or people are going to meet you at things, and it'd be difficult to just keep that persona. And I'd rather just be, like I don't have to. So like if I see someone now and they just see me and I'll just be the same. It's not like, oh, you're different you're different when you're there. It's easier to just be yourself than it is to be someone else.
I think you are that slightly polished version online, because obviously we're trying to make a video that's sort of, got a good flow, sounds well, looks well. But I think like mediums like this is really important, especially for like your audience. I think this will be like an evolution for those that really enjoy consuming your content and they get to hear your one-liners and your commentary. But to hear you a little bit more raw off the cuff, I think they'll love that, and it does give you that extra depth to what people know about you. And same for you.
That's why I think social media is important. I started my Instagram quite late on after my channel, but so I like to interact with people, and it's that, like it gives you that side. Like I put stuff with my family on there. My YouTube's just my YouTube. There will be like bits with my kids, like doing something silly in some of the shots and stuff. But so like they get to see the whole me on the social media, like family time, stuff what I do while I'm not filming, like, oh, so this guy ain't just sat in front of a camera 24/7. He's actually got a life. He eats food. What? He actually eats.
He's not just a
breathes.
psycho in a shed making knives. He's got his kids in front of him as well. They're making knives. What I want to ask as well is on sort of social media and all that side of it, just some of the comments. So obviously we did briefly touch on the trolls, but can you go into detail about some of the good, bad, and indifferent comments that you have had?
Well, like I do get stuff. Obviously, I try put a bit of humour into my videos, which is like anything. Some people see it as good, some people see it as bad. Like I get a lot of people where I had one guy who was one of my regular subscribers, and he'd comment and he was like,
sorry, I just got flashbacks because I watched one of your videos, like an unboxing video, and it cracked me up because your head just fucking pops out. Some people would have like a jingle and like an animation, and Honor's just kind of like. Unboxing.
It took me like 5 takes to get it right as well, because the box just kept raising on my head rather than popping up.
No, sorry, man. That's why I started laughing. Sorry.
But I like to put those bits and bobs in. But yeah, the guy he was like, oh, I've had a real bad day today, and I came online and I'd seen you put a video up, and it's really cheered me up. Even just the outtakes at the end where you're just swearing and stuff. It's really put me onto a good one. And
those are the best, aren't they?
It's good.
You can't describe. It sounds really corny. We said this before. Those are the ones that they just get you there, and you think, okay, I might have got like a bunch of negative comments today, but if I've made this person a little bit happier today, even just doing something daft or something functional or whatever it might be, those are what kind of keep you going, especially if you have any, I don't want to say dark times, but if you sometimes you get burnt out, when you're doing the same thing over and over and over again, and you need stuff like that to just kind of keep you thinking this is worthwhile to people, Yeah,
because it's human nature to just dwell on the bad times in it. We always look back with rose-tinted glasses, but if you're onto something, obviously going good, 600,000 subscribers, 1.6 million subscribers, I know you still get angry now with the bad comments. You don't react, but
I don't know if it's anger. It's more like I think I get angry with where humanity is. It's more like I don't understand why people all the time.
It's like a frustration, and it's just like, what?
Yeah, how do you have time to do it?
You sent me a WhatsApp, said bring this up if we ever talk about comments again.
Oh God, what was this? Was it me shitting myself again?
No, it was a DM that you got.
Was it?
Yeah, hold on. Yeah, I'll let you read it.
All right, I don't remember what we're talking about.
You sent me a screenshot and said, this guy, this was terrifying to read because none of it made sense. Because once,
am I reading out this whole thing?
At one section I thought, he's on your side, then the next he's not. But you said, bring that up.
Yeah, I won't read the whole thing out, but he basically says, this was actually a Facebook message, right? This wasn't on YouTube.
It's a direct message.
He said, I wonder, with people starving in this world, which I get this a lot, right? This is people don't understand how calorie balance works, right? I very rarely waste food, but yeah, people starving in this world. Why are people impressed by how much food you can consume? I hope you spend some money feeding people that need it. Why don't you eat your own beard? This is where I think the drug started to hit him. He then said, P.S. Gluttony is a deadly sin, but he put a kiss on the end, so that was nice. This is all without me replying. And then he said, desert menu never gets old. I think he meant dessert menu. So now he's liking it again. And then he says, sometimes actually I want to punch you. Eat your own dick. Eat your own dick if you can find it, up your own ass. So not really sure where... I won't say his name, Mr. Tom. Not sure where his head's at, really, but probably needs some kind of professional help.
Pretty bitter, isn't he? It's funny you bring stuff like that up. I get that because I destroy food at the end, which I've earned the money to pay for, and I get people saying, "Oh, you've why are you wasting food?" Or I chopped up some wood before, and everyone's like, "Oh, what a waste of wood!" Why? Yeah, there's starving people in the world, but film companies destroy Bugattis.
Yeah,
but you're not going to cry at them. You're not going to go to them. I am the same as you. We're all like, oh, we might have a channel, but it doesn't mean we're any different. We're still working class people. We're not millionaires from YouTube. What everyone thinks, oh, you're a YouTuber. You've got 5 subscribers. You're a millionaire. No, that's not how it works. We're all working class people. We're on the same level as you. We live on the same estates as you all. We're no different. But the film companies are destroying millions and millions of pounds of stuff. Don't whinge because I smashed a pumpkin up, which was rotten. I don't smash, I'll buy brand new stuff, but it cost me 80p.
I know, if people think that the especially when it comes to world hunger, people think that the problem is small enough that it's one person contributing to it, you really got to look at yourself. I mean, a bunch of people messaged me when I did a Super Bowl special, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, and a bunch of people messaged me on that saying stuff about wasting food, and I felt like saying that they pay Beyonce 50 million quid to play the halftime show. Could they not have given her? Could she not have done it for free or $1 million and they give 49 to charity? The people they have no means to rationalize it. I think on a common sense level,
It's just that anonymity in it behind the comment section on YouTube. That's the biggest problem. Is you can just sit there behind an alias and just hammer folk. But that dude that you just read out there, he went through some waves.
The kiss. You gave me the kiss on the end, though.
But can you imagine?
I'm pretty jealous. I don't think I've had a kiss.
Can you imagine going through that many levels of emotions, just DMing something that's never going to
weird,
DM
isn't
back?
it? Have you ever been so mad about something? Which is I always say to him, I say, look, there's nothing you say is going to stop me from doing what I do. In fact, because everyone started being idiots, I started buying cabbages and smashing that up, and that was in reference to them because I always used to call everyone a cabbage. Like I'd be like, this cabbage is just commenting on this, so then I smash cabbages up. So if anything, if I'm starving, I don't want to eat a cabbage. No one wants to eat cabbages. I don't.
Who's eating a full cabbage? No, cabbage is not my choice of vegetable.
Well, this guy thought you were going to eat your own beard, so I'd probably rather eat your beard than a cabbage if I'm honest.
Tastes probably equal.
Can you recall any comments specifically that have sort of stood out? Like,
yeah, well, I was saying when we were out there about a guy from up near Newcastle way, and he said he was going to like come and stab me. And I was just like, well, come down. He was like, right, I'll be yours. He said like something like 8 o'clock or something. And I was like, right, sound, yeah, just come down, mate. Like, and everyone, like, I was putting it on my Instagram and everyone was like, right, live it. And I was like, yeah, I will live it. I'll live it. Like, I've got like some guy saying he's going to stab me. So if I fight him on my own doorstep, I'm, like.
Can you imagine? I actually thought that, when you were reading that out, I thought, imagine how unhinged some of these people must be to then. Because you are public facing. If they're rocked up, they can quickly find out where your shed is, and
they could take it. I was thinking, when we were talking about that beforehand, somebody, I think I was. I normally I wouldn't reply to people that say stuff like that, but like Connor says, sometimes you have that switch is kind of flipped in, and you think that you don't want to confront these people, but you want to just show people sometimes that. It's what they're doing is unacceptable. A guy once said to me that he wanted to come and fill me in, I think was the phrase he used. Might have been Danny Dyer. That's the kind of thing he'd say in a film. But and he'd said it a couple of times, and I said, I'm not a hard case. I don't know if I'm probably like 10 stone wet through, right? But I just in the end I was like, look, mate, I walk down this river every day. If you've got some kind of grief, come down and see me. Not because I'm a tough guy, just because I thought like, I'm gonna show this bloke I'm not terrified of him, if people think they can throw their weight around, especially in hard cases aren't going to be in YouTube comments, they're going to be doing probably fighting professionalism, I don't know, but like I think sometimes you just got to wonder what we've said this before, like what kind of nourishment you get from insulting people or criticizing people. I find it really odd. Or threatening people, it's even worse.
Yeah. Well, the way I see it is every time I get a bad comment, it means I'm doing well, because no one criticizes people who aren't doing well. It's just that's the way you've got to see it, Every time a video goes well, or every time something goes well on somewhere, every time I put a post up on Instagram where it's very rarely on Instagram. I think I've had 3 in the full time, but when I get a successful post, I will get someone who tries to slate it, and I just think, oh, that's good then.
It's working.
I'm doing well.
Yeah, but people don't realize as well that like bad engagement is still engagement.
Yeah.
Like the easiest way I say to people if I get into debates, but usually people will want your channel to be unsuccessful or want you to fail in what you're doing. I'll say to them like, look, if you want me to go away, the quickest way that's going to happen is if you and everyone else stops commenting, whether it be positively or negatively. If you just pretend I don't exist, avoid the dog shit like we were saying, then that's going to be how quick. That's how you achieve your goal, right? I'll disappear quicker than I arrived, you know.
Yeah.
But they don't. I think it's more the fact that they just want some kind of confrontation and a little bit of attention, because I think they see YouTubers or people that create content on YouTube these days are like, we're basically like Z-level celebrities, right? But to those that we're in the public eye to some extent, so people get an amount of satisfaction, I think, out of if we have one of those moments where we're like, fucking shut up, we get a little mad or whatever. I think that's what they crave. So the easiest way is just to starve them of that, I think.
Yeah,
not reply.
I have tried saying to them before, I've had a few people saying stuff on my videos, and they're saying, oh, it's this, you shouldn't be doing this, like what a waste of time. And I'm like, but you're commenting, which is good for me. So thank you for that. And I'm earning money. And every time you come back to comment, that'll come back as a view because you've got to click on the video.
Yeah, exactly. Watch some ads.
So thank you.
What about so have you had any more comments that are similar to a similar extent of that?
Do you know what? I just actually remembered that on my Facebook the other day. It's weird. Like I made the Trench Club, and I made it as a replica, and I made a modern twist. Like the original one has a spring, and I used the wire rope as the bit of flex to make it sort of dead blow. And then a guy was like, oh, if I'd have made that, I'd have done the pommel so it had a bit of swell on it so it don't slip, because when it's got blood on it, it'll slip and all this stuff. And I was like,
I think you're going to war.
Yeah, it's weird. I was like, look, I've Fair enough, yeah. But I've tested it. I used it in the video. It won't slippy at all. You know, like the wood's porous. Like it's a wood. It's pretty grippy. That in fact, the wetter it gets, the more grippier it is in your hands. The swell on the end's perfectly fine. And then he came back.
What are we talking about a trench club here? Yeah? Is it swell on the end, grippy in the middle?
It does look pretty phallic, if I'm honest. But yeah, and then he came back and he was like, I thought like, you know, this was like not. I didn't think it was a troll comment. I was just replying honestly. And he came back and he was like, well, if you're going to speak to people like that, you aren't going to last long in this game. And I thought, what? Like, what? You told me that you would have done this, and I said, well, this is the reason why I did what I did, and you're taking it. So I just deleted his thing. I thought, you're not even getting the time. Like, obviously, you've tried to suck me in somehow and bring me in.
Yeah, I don't understand that either, because I think a lot of people as well, they'll kind of hide behind a bit of a masquerade of kindness. Oh, it's constructive criticism when they've said something bluntly negative, you know, and like. Sometimes, like Honor says, you'll get if you have that desire to get back to people and interact with your fan base, you might say something that you disagree with them, but you tell them why. You know, so if it's you made this a certain way, or I did something a certain way, and a lot of people won't take that. They'll take that personally. So, well, you know, I'm just trying to help them, and it's no, you're not. You're trying to get a bit of a. You know,
that's the worst thing I hear. Like, what I read is constructive criticism. Like how I can't critique you on how you eat food because I don't have a clue. So it's not constructive criticism. It's just me saying something about you eating food. I can't critique him on how he films stuff because I use an Argos camera. So I don't know how they can. You're like, oh, well, you should have done this with a knife. Well, no, because I make knives what customers order. They tell me what they want and I make it what they want. So that you're not giving me constructive criticism. You're not constructively criticizing what I'm doing by saying that if I stock remove a knife, it's not real knife making. You're trying to slate what I do, and you've not done it. You get that a lot, don't you, Josh? Because you're in the you film videos, or a part of your content was around camera work, right?
Yeah, I mean, my channel started with just sort of teaching people how to do it. As I was learning along the way, you know, and if you know a little bit more than someone else, and you think you can add a bit of value, that's all you're trying to do when you put the content out, but. Man, like the sort of tech YouTuber camera world is horrendous for that. Like, you know, you just get hammered. But like I said, in all walks of life, opinions are just like arseholes. It's like if you're trying to start a business and, you know, you might be, like, say you're working at Argos and you say, I'm going to start a business, I'm going to do this. And fellow that you're working with is like, I won't do that, you know, because you need to do X, Y, and Z. It's like, how the fuck would you know? You're stood next to me in Argos. Like, you know, it's not like you're not Bill Gates. You haven't just, you know, you've got billions in bank. So... And family can be just as bad from time to time, you know, like if you say, oh, I'm going to do X, like I said, we're starting this podcast and you can see their heads falling off. I'm like, oh, I've basically sacked off all my clients and we're going to just launch a podcast. You can see them going, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, we're going to, like, it's pretty much a full-time job to run this podcast because we've got, you know, there's all this to go behind the scenes. We've got George in there running edits and all stuff for TikTok.
You got to take risks in life, and people just don't want to. People just want to sit on that single narrow road and stay on there. Whereas we're like climbing around outside of that road.
And especially in a niche like YouTube, because it's still kind of unheard of. Especially, I mean, we're in West Yorkshire, for God's sake. It's not like we're in London or LA where everybody's like on social media. We're in West Yorkshire, and we're like trying to make a punt at, like, can we launch a successful channel? Can we launch a successful YouTube podcast? So you can see my family going, you sure this is a good idea? And I'm like, well, considering like I've already made like a bit of a living off my own YouTube channel, which is absolutely tiny, and then I'm going to partner with the dude that's got 1.6 million subscribers, has got a bit of an audience. I reckon if we give it a good shot, we might be able to pay rent.
The thing is, you can't live your life like that, can you? Not that I want to get all philosophical, but you can fail at anything. You could be sacked from a well-paying job. You know, a lot of people know I used to work for a stockbroker, which people probably consider. Like that sounds like a good solid job, you know. Yeah, but I hated it, and I could have been, you know, you could always be made redundant and stuff like that. Better you get one life, right? Unless you're Buddhist or whatever, and you think you get more than that. Yeah. So like, why not? What's the worst that can happen? You fail, you get a different job somewhere else.
And I left. I'd been in Navy for nearly 8 years, and I left to start doing this. I left to go, you know what? I'm going to start a YouTube channel. I'm going to start making videos with a camera.
That was probably a wise idea, though. I wouldn't have. If someone said to me, "I'm going to leave Navy," I'd be like, "That's probably a good idea." Yeah.
Where did the name DiesInEveryFilms come from then? Like, what was the inspiration behind the channel name?
I sort of like just made it up. Like, I wanted it to be catchy. You know, like a lot of people will just come up with names, you know, like if they have a channel called something like Josh Gudgeon. Like, who even cares about that? No, No, but a lot of people will just, like, you want something what people will remember, and people remember it because it's Dies in Every Film, because it's different. It's not just like Honor Makes Knives or Josh Gudgeon or something like that.
We should probably say, actually, like, for the listeners and viewers, like, me and Honor go back a few years now. He's not just coming here and start hammering us from day one. It
works for you, though, because obviously you're, like, what your channel does what you do, like a lot of people are just the name, but regarding like Mars stuff, it's sort of a different niche, so it does need to be something catchy.
Yeah, the both of you two have got like proper solid brands. Like we've said this before, but like the actual branding and the name behind each channel, like it pushes for merch. Like it looks good on hoodies. Like you've both sort of smashed that side of it, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I think Dies in Every Film. It's just got a cool vibe to it, even if it doesn't mean anything inherently. It just sounds like a cool name, Like when you told me about the channel, I thought it's a cool name for her. It also made me think of Sean Bean because he does die in every film.
Yeah, which it's quite ironic because obviously Sean Bean's from Yorkshire and everyone's like, oh, is it to do with Sean Bean? I'm actually like, no, it ain't to do with Sean Bean, but I will take that.
Do you think we could get Sean Bean on this podcast at some point? I think I could die happy.
Well, as soon as you just took piss at me, I don't think I'll be sending the DM. So
just him saying bastard. In fact, why don't you could have him in the corner and every time it's quiet, he just goes, bastard, and then just like put it all the way through.
We'll get that soundbite.
We'll get the soundbite on the roadcaster.
You can actually do that, yeah. So I'm conscious of time and how much we've run on, but I'm going to hand over to you, Mr. Beard, for the final segment of this podcast.
Yeah, this is not a particularly original element of a podcast, but we have some spicy stuff. But we've made it a little bit more dramatic and theatrical because I've got a little box, a spooky-looking box, into which our guests, if you've seen this before, can dip into and try some spicy stuff. I'm gonna go nowhere near it, but Honor's gonna, I think anyway, partake of something spicy in this box.
So, I mean, have we decided that maybe for this one we could go for the 20-minute burn? Is it called?
Yes. So in this box, I'm gonna get the box out in a second. I'll keep you on tenterhooks. But in the box, the spooky box, we've got a number of spicy things. But because Honor, as you might have heard, is an absolute warrior, like a straight up tough guy, we're going to get him to try the hardest of, or the most brutal of spicy things in the box. Shall I get the box out?
Get your box out.
Time to whip the box out.
Get your box out.
Oh, that's like an angelic sound. We need a spooky sound. Mike, you can put some like terrifying music over the top. This is the box. It's pretty terrifying. Cost like 12 quid on Amazon, but I thought it looked, medieval and stuff.
That price is terrifying.
So anyway, I'm let me slip this. I'll get the thing out.
How are you, spicy food? Any good?
I'm not too bad, yeah.
20-minute burn. There it is. There she is.
I'm going to remove the box.
How are we going to categorize this challenge then? Like, how do you see this sort of playing out?
So I think what we should do is, I've got some milk there ready because I know how important that is. I reckon. Obviously, we're not going to get Honor to drink the whole thing because that might actually kill him. But we're going to use the end of a spoon, right?
Okay.
About halfway down.
Yep.
Get him to lick. You have to lick it as erotically as you can. Lick it in a nice kind of arousing fashion, and see how long you can. See how long you can go without resorting to the milk.
Okay.
But I've got the milk. Don't worry.
How long do you think? Do you think you can do this? Like, I know you. I mean, the stories that we've just heard, we know how sort of harrowing he really is. So it might just sort of cut his nose off to spite his face here. But how do you think you're going to do?
My nose is bleeding already.
I think you're just going to go like that and be like, yeah, and what? Like he's going to find it really easy. But anyway, let me prepare this. I've got some milk already on it, so don't worry. I'm not going to let you expire. Right, so I'm going to be fair. Maybe a little bit more.
Yeah, let me get a shot of this on my. We can cut this in.
Do you want to move my thing?
Right, I've got it.
Got it, right. That's about halfway down, right?
That looks a lot, that.
All right, we don't have to. I'm not saying you have to lick it clean, man. Like
that is quite a lot.
Is it? Have we got another spoon?
Nah, it'll be all right.
Great.
You'll be all right, mate.
Yeah, just have like a little mouth. You don't have to.
Just have a little bit, yeah. You don't have to lick the whole thing.
Just because, it's thinly spread.
Yeah, it's thinly. Yeah, just do the lot, because then we've set the benchmark now. It's going to be like that for whoever.
Do you want to sniff it first?
No. It's so everyone else has to do that same amount.
Yeah.
I do that. Right,
yeah.
I'll do it all then.
Don't throw away the spoon.
But like, be careful. Don't get it in your eyes, for God's sake. I've got some milk as well.
What does it smell
you
like?
could cut this part out maybe, but on you might want to just like do about half of that because I had about half right off the edge of there. Because if you do all that, I don't know, it might be a little bit brutal.
Ah, well. That's what we're in it for, innit? You ready?
I'm ready. Are you ready?
Wait,
I licked it twice.
what an animal.
Oh, God. His tongue's red. It looks like blood, that.
Jesus.
Right.
So the timer started anyway.
Did you get hot yet?
No, man.
It went right to the back of my throat.
Yeah, because you deep-throated the spoon. How bad is it? Come on, tell us how you're feeling.
I feel like I'm eating a volcano. My eyes are watering.
I can see it now. I actually tried a little bit of this earlier. I'm really bad with spice, and I tried a little less than actually quite a lot less than others, and it really hurt me.
I think it's like you're doing better than that. I'd be crying up floor. I'd have gone straight for that milk.
I went to the milk after about 5 seconds, so you're already. We need to get a leaderboard.
It was already at the top of the leaderboard.
Try not to breathe.
Mike, right? If Honor dies, we're in like a. If I go down, we all go down. Yeah.
Welcome. This is the Beard Meets Food podcast. Oh, he's going for it. Oh, yeah, right. We'll go to an official decision. We'll put the time on screen, but I'm pretty sure he enjoyed about 1 minute 10. So 70 seconds of afterburn there.
Jesus, I thought I was going to be sick then. That's how bad it got.
Is it really that bad?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I found it quite bad, and I had probably keep it in your mouth for a little bit, and he's probably going to need some more milk.
We've brought the milk in.
Just
All right, yeah. Well,
Congratulations, Honor. You're the top of the leaderboard. DiesInEveryFilm's customs around 70 seconds. We'll confirm that later on, but I'm pretty sure.
I'm just gonna give you semi-skimmed. You could have got full fat, man.
We didn't know the rules, man. This is amateur. Is it getting better or worse, Honor?
Worse.
Honor, do you want some tissue?
Yeah, please.
Mike, have you got any pots of sugar?
Yeah.
Have you got any bread?
No.
This
is the Breaking Bread podcast. You said you were going to bring bread.
Mike, get him some sugar. Yeah, you should go up to pot in his tongue. Trust me.
Is that the hottest thing you've ever tried?
It's pretty hot, yeah. I was more concerned about not wanting to be sick. It was like tickling my throat. I thought, oh God, I'm sick.
If you're not on a diet on it, maybe just have a spoonful of that, but just put it in your mouth and kind of force your tongue to the roof of your mouth and just keep it there for a bit. I told you this is a bad idea.
That's famous last words, isn't it? I told you this was a bad idea.
Are you feeling a little bit better now? Or?
Yeah, it's better now.
Oh, thank God. I thought there was a point when it was escalating. Because that's the worst part. If you ever do anything really spicy, and once you finish and you start drinking milk and it still gets worse, then that's when you start to panic because you think, well, I can't really do anything else.
He's done way. I mean, I've seen you do a million of these videos and you're always hiccuping and crying and shouting Mrs. Beard. He's not even hiccuped once.
Well, he is a soldier. Let's not forget that. I'm not a tough guy, so I've got to say I don't think anyone's going to do quite that well.
It's warm, that.
Yeah.
Every time I breathe, it feels like someone's got a flamethrower in my mouth.
Well, on that note there, we're going to wrap it up, but that was by far the best podcast we've ever had. You should be absolutely proud of yourself for what you've managed to do.
It was a roller coaster of emotion. I hate using that phrase, but it started off with quite a lot of giggles. In the middle, got a little bit harrowing, and then ended off somewhere in between. But we should say to the people listening or watching, go check out Honor's YouTube channel, DiesInEveryFilm Customs.
Yep.
Because if you're into people making weaponry with a comedic edge, then it's some funny stuff. Plus, he's from Yorkshire.
But honestly, that was an absolute pleasure, mate. Thank you very much for coming down. And you're more than welcome to come back again. We won't make you do another challenge.
I'm just not looking forward to that coming out the other side.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Catch you on the next one. Peace.